Happy Friday. It's June 6th, 2025. Nice to have you along here live from Lake Wissota. I'm Pat Kreitlow, and our show gets started at 6:06 here across the Civic Media Radio Network. We will, of course, be talking about the mega battle royale coming up off the top of things here, the bromance breakup of Oval Office besties. Makes for good entertainment, but does it really change anything that would affect us? We'll talk to Kia Vakil from Courier Newsroom. We'll talk to our Week in Review panel. We'll also talk to Dr. Kristin Lyerly. She was in the room when Assembly Speaker Robin Vos this week lectured a group of doctors and told them they ought to do their research. I think she's got opinions on this. Also, Mike Clemens will join us to preview the weekend in sports. And before we get back to the Red Hot Brewers, there was a red hot ending to Game 1 of the NBA Finals last night. So all that and more coming up in just a few minutes here on the Civic Media Radio Network and right here. Yeah, that's an updated picture. Sunrise near Lake Wissota. We'll see you soon.
across Wisconsin on Civic Media. You're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on this June 6th. It's a Friday morning. A beautiful morning to have you here up north, live from Lake Wissota, from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network, on the app, YouTube, Facebook, podcast. Thank you for spending part of your mornings right here. And I've got a question for you right off the top. How long are you allowed to enjoy the feeling of schadenfreude before remembering that it actually changes nothing about the big dumb thing that the two big dummies are fighting about? If you have completely missed this, and I doubt that any of you have, but President Trump and Elon Musk are no longer Oval Office besties. The bromance is over. The insults were flying. It was a real time case to be made of why social media is such a different era than when we used press secretaries and staff and other people that would help you cool off first. So yes, Cassandra, we're going to talk about the divorce today. And Tony writes on YouTube, it's all a ruse to get liberals to buy Teslas again. No. I mean, for about a hot minute, people thought, wait, Elon Musk wants to blow up Trump's bill and now they're fighting about it. Does this mean? No, it doesn't mean that they aren't anything but what they have always been, a couple of whiny rich people who can't help but, I can't say this quite right on the radio. Let's just say they like to get into petty little fights. And it doesn't help any of us because, again, Elon Musk is still looking for the same big tax handouts. So when he talks about the bill being, bloated and bad for the deficit, it simply means he wants more cuts. But the guy ran his own little hit squad called Doge, and they learned that they can't find enough to cut to pay for all the greed that he and his billionaire buddies want. And so he's unhappy about the bill. But again, we have to look out for the bottom line for the rest of us. This is all, as Congressman Mark Bocan noted, kind of a distraction while they're busy picking your pocket. But we will get into it a little bit more throughout the course of the morning of this MAGA battle royale. Because in one corner, a president threatening to cancel space contracts. In the other corner, the world's richest man accusing the president of heinous crimes and a cover-up. Where's Ron Burgundy when you need it? Actually, I called up the Ron Burgundy slide here. Parker Olson standing by in Madison for us as well. So there's Ron Burgundy with his bottle of Miller High Life going, wow, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand.
It did. It was very fast. I did not realize what was happening until all of a sudden it was like, whoosh, gone.
I take a break in the middle of the day here to, take care of stuff around the house, run errands, whatever. And I picked just the right time because there's this other meme where a guy comes into a room or an apartment where he's got a couple of pizzas. He thinks he's delivering pizzas to his buddies and like the apartment is on fire. And that's exactly what it felt like. I'm like, I come back to my computer, I turn it on. I'm like, whoa. He said what?
He said what? I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, what? And it was, it was fine for a while. And then you remembered how it changes nothing about a bill that's going to slash services to pay for a massive handout to corporations and the very wealthy. Hey, we got our weekend review panel to talk all about this coming up. Joan Esposito will be here, filling in for Mark Jacob. Jennifer Schulze will be here. Former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel as well. Courier Newsroom's Kia Vakil will be joining us a little later this hour. In other news, Dr. Kristin Lyerly was in the room when it happened. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos lecturing a group of doctors, telling them they ought to do their research. At least I think she was in the room. She may have just texted it secondhand from somebody else. But Robin Vos telling a group of doctors to do their research. I'm sure it was a question about why he is the one person standing in the way of health care for moms who are struggling in that first year after childbirth. Yeah, he's the expert on it. So we're going to ask Dr. Lyerly if there was a proctologist in the room and why he wasn't able to pull that giant bug out of whatever is up Robin Vos's butt. That's coming up in our 8 o'clock hour. We also begin a new weekend sports segment with Mike Clemens from Civic Media, who will preview the weekend in sports, including the Red Hot Brewers returning for the start of a long homestand. We will also have our Scotty Summer Text to Win contest. All that and much more on the way. And, of course, you can also text us using the Civic Media app. You just head over there, and you'll need it for the Scotty Summer Text to Win contest less than an hour from now. Or if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, put something in the comment section like so many of our friends do, and we'll pass that along. Also, I was very happy to see Dr. Lyerly pass around a social media post last night pointing out that yesterday was the birthday for Robin Tigerton and giving all of us a chance to wish him a happy birthday. And I'm sure we will find out more about what his birthday weekend plans are coming up in just a little bit. But before, Parker, we can even get to the Red Hot Brewers and weekend sports, we got to talk about last night where I did sneak a few looks at the NBA Finals Game 1. And that seemed to be, just another typical blowout in the NBA, where Oklahoma City led by, 15 points? Something like that with 10 minutes left in the game. They led the entire game. Well, I'm sorry, not the entire game. Until the last 0.3 of a second when Tyrese Halliburton completed the comeback for the Indiana Pacers, and they actually shocked the Oklahoma City Thunder to take a 1-0 lead in the NBA Finals. So, much like the NHL Stanley Cup Finals the night before, Game 1 there as well, you got to stick around for the whole thing. Or, if you're early risers like I am, you wait and you read about it in the morning. You're like, what? Wait, I went to bed and it was completely different. And this is why the Night Owls get their reward. Except, Mr. Olson, across the great state of Minnesota, where I learned yesterday that in Wednesday night's Stanley Cup Finals Game 1, which was in overtime, and all across Minnesota, which is quite the hockey state, the winning goal in overtime that was scored by the Edmonton Oilers happened at 10:44 p.m.
Okay.
Do you know what happens at 10:44 p.m. every other month in the state of Minnesota?
Do they do like a tornado testing?
All of the stations do a test of the emergency alert system.
Oh, that's brutal.
And I don't have a great clip to play here for the audio, but somebody did take it off their TV screen where there's 34 seconds left in overtime. The Edmonton player is literally lifting his stick, and then you get the Everybody in the hockey state of Minnesota missed the game-winning goal on Wednesday night.
Oh my God.
And you can just hear every hockey fan just going, "Whoa! What? No!
Something similar happened with I believe it was the Indy 500 in Madison last year.
Oh, that's right.
They sent it to commercial like as they were starting the final lap by accident.
Yeah, somebody hit a wrong button or something was timed. The timer was supposed to go off, but they were supposed to disable that in the case of a live event. But nope, up comes the time. You got to play the promo or whatever it was. So here we go. Yeah, TV is fun that way.
Oh,
things can go south in a hurry. Trust me from personal experience that they can.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I do know. So, a reminder that we have our weekend newsletter coming out, ironically called Sunday Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, where I put together some of the best stories of the week in Wisconsin politics, and we have a question of the week as well. We'll have responses to last Sunday's question: should Governor Tony Evers just veto the entire state budget bill if Republicans, now that they've walked away from the negotiating table, if they send him something that, shouldn't be fixed with partial vetoes? Or do you just let the governor fix it as best he can with partial vetoes and go from there? There's some other stories that might make the cut. I don't know. I'll decide between now and Sunday morning. I know we had a good discussion yesterday with Chad Holmes about what's happening in the city of Wausau, and an editorial there in the Pilot and Review about maybe it's time to rethink the mayor system and consider a city manager instead. Does that lead to more professional management, or does that take away a little bit of democracy, letting the people choose who's going to lead city government in their hometown? We'll, I'm sure, have a story in there about the breakdown of budget negotiations. I shouldn't really say breakdown in negotiations. Republicans did what I pretty much assumed they were going to do, is get Governor Evers to acknowledge that, yes, we can have tax cuts, but the Republicans wouldn't acknowledge that, yes, maybe we should help make up 16 years of underfunding our schools. So rather than acknowledge that, they walked away. We talked over the week, I think yesterday, about a bill introduced by Representative Christian Phelps from Eau Claire that would put some caps or keep the caps on the voucher school program. Because the way it's designed right now, the caps are supposed to go away next year, and that would lead to unlimited enrollment in the voucher program. So basically, if every wealthy family in the state wants to send their kids to a religious school, taxpayers will have to foot the bill. We also talked about wedding barns with Sheila Everhart and Hans Breitenmoser on Tuesday, and the legislation that is sorely needed by some of these venues in Wisconsin's smaller communities to continue hosting weddings and other special events. So all of that and more could make it into our Sunday morning newsletter. Sign up over at upnorthnewswi.com. Click subscribe up in the top banner. Today happens to be National Donut Day. Spoiler alert for today's history lesson in just over a half hour. But I tell you that because in today's newsletter, there is a story about where to get the best donuts in Wisconsin. And I'm sure everybody has their own thoughts about where they get theirs. Certainly, there are a couple of places that a lot of people think of in the Madison area that made a national list. There's one in the Appleton area that made a national list. And so to learn much more about Donut Day, head over to upnorthnewswi.com and click subscribe, and you will get our daily newsletter from Kristin Lyerly weekday mornings, and our new Saturday sports newsletter covering some of the positive stories behind Wisconsin sports. Oh, like that Tyrese Halliburton from the Indiana Pacers, being from Oshkosh, and everything else. The Brewers were off yesterday. They are getting set to start a weekend series with the San Diego Padres, and that is part of a long homestand. In fact, let me call that up so I can tell you who all is coming, because maybe you'll get a chance to win tickets or go see the Brewers yourself at some point. So let's see. We got 3 games with the San Diego Padres. The first game is this evening, and the coverage will begin at 6:35 on several civic media stations. So that's tonight, tomorrow evening, and Sunday afternoon. Then 3 games against Atlanta, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday afternoon. And then 4 games against the St. Louis Cardinals, Thursday and Friday evenings, Saturday mid-afternoon, and Sunday early afternoon. Quite a homestand coming up at American Family Field. From the heart of America's up north, live from Lake Wissota, thanks for making this the place to spend part of your mornings. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. I have way too many windows open on my computer. I've got to consolidate these.
Windows or tabs?
Both. That's the problem. It's one thing to have tabs in a couple of windows, but I've separated some of them out. Like, I'll put this in its own window and come back to it. It's like, and then I don't come back to it.
Yeah.
So that way, when you hit the button that makes all the windows small, and then you can go pick the one that you want to read next.
Yeah.
But there's too many of them, so they're so small I can't pick out what it is that I want next. It's awful. I mean, I started by putting just a few open windows, and then, gosh, it just escalated quickly. Next thing I knew.
It's like that.
There were windows everywhere.
I hope you beat that meme to hell on this show.
Okay. See, now that two different windows, I got Facebook tabs on there. There's no need for that. I don't need two Facebook tabs that are open.
I don't think you need one, to be honest with you, Pat.
Honestly, no, not during the show. I do not. So look at this. We're taking care of it already here.
There we go.
Let's see. Here's one all about the barn tours and everything, but that can be combined with a different window. So let's combine these windows over here. Yeah, play by play as I combine windows on my desktop. I'd say that's great radio, but the radio folks are smart enough to go to a commercial break. You guys are our hostages here on social media. So you get the full treatment of what's happening behind the scenes here. What is
the
this?
full Kreitlow experience?
The full Kreitlow. Ooh. I don't know I don't even want to know what that's shorthand for. Oh boy, there's a whole bunch of stuff from Climate Check that we didn't get to this week, so we're just going to close all those and hope I can find them later on.
25 seconds.
Okay, you could totally be converted over here. Hey, look at that. My windows are almost readable. I don't even know what those are. Anyway, okay. We'll continue our play-by-play of computer maintenance next break. I was telling you about stuff in the newsletter, stuff on the website, stuff on social media, all for Up North News. One that I wanted to mention that I haven't for a while here is our Madison Food Guide. Because Up North News, again, for folks that think, oh, you only cover stuff north of 29. No, we cover America's up north, all of Wisconsin. And we've got a lot of folks in and around the Madison area who read our newsletter, who look up our stuff, who listen through the Civic Media app or on the website or on social media. And so we've done a food guide, which is always well received. And so we just put out our latest one. You put it out. Is it a book? No. It's a section of our website. If you head over to upnorthnewswi.com and click on the tab up top that says local, there will be listed there a Madison Food Guide, its own section of stories. And I forget how many stories there are now, 7 or 8 maybe, of different restaurants, different themes, different types of ways that you can engage in fine dining in the Madison area. Look, there's fine dining everywhere. We talk about supper clubs. I certainly talk about the great burger joints up here in the Chippewa Valley. But there is also this Madison Food Guide that I wanted to call your attention to. So head over to our website, upnorthnewswi.com, and learn more about that. Well, where to start with the breakup, the bromance that is no more? The Associated Press story reads like this. Maybe it was always going to end this way, with two billionaires angrily posting about each other on social media, fingers flying across pocket-sized screens as their incandescent feud burned hotter by the minute. But even if the finale was predictable, that didn't make it any less shocking. After long months of Donald Trump and Elon Musk appearing united in their chaotic mission to remake Washington, their relationship imploded this week like a star-going supernova. Or I would contend a SpaceX rocket. It all began with Musk complaining about the centerpiece of Trump's legislative agenda, which the president at first took in stride, but eventually Trump let slip that he was disappointed in his former advisor, prompting Musk to unleash a flood of insults and taunts. He accused Trump of betraying promises to cut federal spending, shared a suggestion that the president should be impeached, claimed without evidence that the government was concealing information about his association with infamous pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Perhaps most viciously, politically speaking, Musk insisted that Trump wouldn't have won last year's election without his help, to which I wholeheartedly agree. Again, money makes the difference, and Elon Musk put something like $300 million into getting Trump elected. He dragged Trump across the finish line no differently than, the billionaires that did the same to Ron Johnson a couple of years earlier. And I know what you're saying. Say, no, wait, Trump won every swing state. There are 7 well-known swing states, and Trump went 7-0 on there. Yeah, but not by huge margins in any of them. And did $300 million make a difference? As they used to say on Laugh-In back in the day, you bet your sweet bippy. Trump, not one to slouch from a fight, the AP story goes on to say, could hold back no longer. He posted that Musk had been wearing thin and that he'd asked him to leave his administration and that the tech titan had gone crazy. Maybe, Trump threatened, he should save taxpayer money by canceling government contracts and subsidies for Musk's companies. Which led Elon Musk to say, well, I guess I'm just going to decommission my Dragon space rocket, which is what NASA needs right now if they're going to get astronauts down and back from the space station. If Elon Musk actually stopped supplying that rocket, the only other folks who could help NASA with the space station are in Russia. Needless to say, this did not set well with a lot of folks who loved the Trump and Musk partnership. They felt like kids being caught in a custody battle. Are you on Team Elon? Are you on Team Trump? I mean, one is the president of the United States. One is the world's richest man. One has the nuclear codes. The other now has all of our personal data. Musk put on Twitter at one point, keep this in mind, Trump's only going to be in power for another 3.5 years. I'm going to be around for 40 years, Musk said. I don't know what he knows that we don't know. But then it was ratcheted up a notch by some of Trump's allies saying, maybe it's time to look into whether Elon Musk should be deported. People saying, go back to Africa, with all of its ugly connotations. Tesla stock took a dive. Trump's stock took a dive. People were concerned about SpaceX. Republican Congressman Ryan Zinke of Montana said, it's like India and Pakistan, he said, referring to two nuclear-armed nations that recently skirmished along their border. It just escalates, and neither one of them seemed to back down and understand the strength of the other. It was always an odd pairing, reads the AP story, with contrasting worldviews and deep generational and stylistic differences. Trump is 78 years old. He comes from old school New York real estate. He never appears in public without a suit and tie unless he's on the golf course. Elon Musk is 53, an immigrant from South Africa who struck it rich in Silicon Valley. He's fashioned himself as a black-clad internet edgelord, and his wealth vastly outstrips Trump's. But they were kindred spirits in other ways, experts at generating attention, and enjoy stirring the pot by riling up their opponents. Trump talking about the deep state, Musk warning of the country going bankrupt. So the one thing they certainly did agree on was the need to slash and burn the federal government. For Musk, it was to avoid the government investigations that were being started about his country or his company rather, and its monopolistic practices and other business practices. They agreed that the government needed to be attack what we do, the basic services that we all get, so that they could benefit. So, an oligarchy. But in an oligarchy, there's only room for one strong man. For the moment, it's Trump. But for Elon Musk, this fight is probably far from done. We'll talk more about all of this with Kia Vakil from Career Newsroom. Coming up next, I'm Pat Kreitlow on the Civic Media Radio Network. You're up north. Allison Page on Facebook. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Tony, their hissy fit made my day yesterday. It was magical.
Magical is one way to put it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It was something.
Yep. Although he also was extolling the possibility of the full Kreitlow, to which I would go, say what now? Who do you think will get the kids? Who will get the assets? Well, Elon's got 14 kids of his own. Maybe he'll actually spend some time with them. Not that Trump will. Trump.
I was going to say, what's Don Jr. doing?
Yeah. Bannon. Barron. Anybody seen Barron Trump
Oh yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah, no. Not family men, either one of them. And yet the religious right thinks that they're just all the bee's knees, and Joe Biden, the guy that went to church every Sunday, was not. Go figure.
I don't understand. Ugh. Okay.
Anyway, a very well-written story. I did not give proper credit to the reporter, Chris Majurian. I'm not familiar with Chris, but yeah, very well written. I was just going to mention it, but it was going so well. I just wanted to continue sharing it with everybody. All right, I think we're in good shape here for Kia segment, and then you got all the history stuff. You're good to go there, right?
Yep. Do you want? I'm assuming you want bumper music, and then you'll intro the interview.
Yes, I will. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. I should have given proper credit to the AP reporter who wrote that story I was reading from last segment, Chris Majurian, formerly of the LA Times and now the White House correspondent for the Associated Press. He's the one that put that together. My favorite meme of the day yesterday, and it's the show title for today's hour, this first hour of the show, is you had one person from South Africa being accused of being here illegally because he overstayed his visa at one point. The other being accused of being with Jeffrey Epstein. And so the episode this hour is Alien versus Predator. But as entertaining as it is, Lori notes on Facebook, part of me, she writes, wonders what kind of setup are they trying to pull now? Is this just a distraction from some other unconstitutional act? Conceivably. I talked to Courier Newsroom's Kia Vakil, and I started by asking if all this circus action changes anything, especially whether Trump and Republicans in Congress will reconsider moving forward with their big bloated boondoggle.
No, Trump very much wants to get this bill signed. It's in the Senate now. There are a handful of different camps in the Senate of lawmakers who want to make changes. There's obviously the Ron Johnsons who want more deficit reduction and don't want to add $2 trillion to the deficit. They want more cuts, that is. Then there's like the Josh Hawleys who, I mean, it might literally just be Josh Hawley, but who's really worried about cuts to Medicaid, although you've heard from a couple other senators like Murkowski and Susan Collins who also want to protect Medicaid, or they say they do. You have people like Joni Ernst who couldn't care less and think we're all going to die. So what's the point of helping people? And then you've got the Rand Paul's never going to vote for it. You've got a few senators who want to make the tax cuts for corporations more generous. And then you've got a whole other slew who want to protect some of the clean energy credits because it's helped bring jobs to their states. So it's an interesting mishmash of different priorities. And there's no easy path ahead. I still suspect they'll get something done just because, this is the only thing they care about. But it's certainly not a given.
No, and that's the point that I've been making, and again, I'm happy to be wrong on this, but they say they have to pass something. They've proven in the past that they can get all the way to a deadline and not make it. And granted, if they do, that in itself is still a bad thing because the 2017 tax plan bill expires. And it would lead to big tax increases. So there's every reason for them not to drop the ball on this, but I'm not going to put money on it by the same token.
No.
Okay.
No. And yeah, it will be interesting to watch this play out. They want to pass it by by July 4th, roughly. So, it's going to be a big month of sparring. And I suspect at some point Trump will just threaten to oust any senator who votes against it in their next primary,
or maybe have them arrested or deported or something.
Or that, yeah,
it would be par for the course. In keeping with things like, his new travel ban, which is out, which once again, looking at the list, seems somewhat arbitrary. Afghanistan is on there, but Egypt does not. Where there was recently an Egyptian who took part in a recent terror attack. People in Syria are rejoicing that they're not on the list for some reason. But still, it gives Trump a reason to continue to look like he is excluding the kind of people that he and the MAGA crowd want to be known for excluding.
Yeah, if you look at the list of countries, it's almost exclusively African countries, Asian countries, and South and Central American countries. There's no European countries on this list, and they're all countries with predominant Black, Arab, or Middle Eastern, or of Hispanic, Central American, South American heritage. And so I don't want to always boil it down to it's xenophobia or racism, but in this case it's pretty obvious when you look at this list why it's these countries, and it's also a bunch of countries whose leaders have not bent the knee to Trump, and so he's just doing what he does, which is just sticking his thumb in the eye of countries that are largely non-white and who don't have leaders who are willing to, criticize him or fight back.
Yeah. And again, it keeps, that's why we're going to move on quickly. It gets us away from talking about basically the heist that he's trying to pull with this tax bill. But in the meantime, the uncertainty that he's causing with this bill, with his trade wars and things, it means that jobless claims were on the rise again with numbers that came out Thursday. So while there was also a report that said the trade deficit had shrunk, and as we discussed yesterday, that's not because American manufacturing and output has come up. It is simply because the store shelves are a little barer than they used to be. Jobless claims in the meantime are on the rise.
Yeah, they hit their highest level in 8 months this week, or the week of May 31st. The news came out this week. To about 247,000 claims, new applications for unemployment benefits that week, the last week of May. That is a significant increase above 8,000 from the week prior. And this, let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks, but this suggests that people are losing their jobs at a slightly higher rate, which is what you would expect as these tariffs have gone into place over the course of the last couple of months. And obviously he just escalated some of his steel tariffs. So and a lot of companies imported goods before the tariffs went into place. And so now that they're in place, I think we'll start to see imports really fall. We'll start to see some of these companies have to close and shut down because they can't afford them, or pass the cost on to consumers, or lay off workers, or all of the above.
They're not the only ones having to absorb the things that Trump is doing. I think one of the stories that we've been covering most frequently, all of the Courier newsroom outlets, has been the potential for the big bloated boondoggle to have these Medicaid cuts that would be disastrous to families. Again, you see reporting from all of our state outlets. I'm sure every one of them has a different human face that you can put on what happens if these Medicaid cuts go through.
Yeah, I mean, there was the state legislator in Michigan, the state Senate held a hearing on, I want to say it was Wednesday, where they invited, moms, doctors, health officials from across the state to testify about what cuts to Medicaid would mean. And you had several moms show up who are the parents of, kids with disabilities, kids who survived really severe illnesses, kids whose medical bills would be millions of dollars and unpayable without Medicaid. And the testimony was devastating. I mean, you read the story on our Michigan outlet, and I don't know how anyone would walk away thinking it's okay to make cuts to this program. Now, Republicans are going to say, oh, we're just trying to root out waste and fraud. We're just trying to make sure undocumented immigrants don't use it. But their program essentially creates hurdles for everyone. And if you're a parent to a disabled kid and you are probably having a very, very stressful, difficult day-to-day sometimes, this situation creates work requirements that require you to work and report working 20 hours every week. That's not unreasonable on the surface. But and most Medicaid recipients do work, to be clear, a overwhelming percentage work. But this would require you to work, then take care of your kid, then deal with all the things life presents, then report to the government that you've worked on a regular basis. That's a bureaucratic hurdle. It requires you to prove you're eligible twice a year instead of once a year. That's another hurdle. We have a whole bunch of nonpartisan estimates showing that these two things would cause upwards of 7 million people to lose their insurance from Medicaid. Now, they're never going to say, oh, we're going to take healthcare away from disabled kids and their families, but that could happen. They also want to make it harder for states to get federal funding for Medicaid that essentially helps provide more care. So it's a giant cut. And if you are a parent, you could lose your coverage. Your kid could lose their coverage. Rural residents could lose their coverage. It is a giant cut to Medicaid, no matter what they try to say.
And it goes beyond Medicaid. We talked for a bit yesterday about how this bill, if passed as is, would include huge cuts to Medicare because of pay-as-you-go rules, as Congressman Mark Pocan told us about yesterday. And it's not just Medicaid, it's not just Medicare, but the Affordable Care Act, the restrictions on access, the closing of, the open enrollment periods and things. Again, all these things are not. It allows them to say, well, we're not cutting things, but again, if they create more paperwork, more hurdles, more obstacles, it's going to take away healthcare from many Americans.
Yeah, we have a record number of people who get coverage through the Affordable Care Act. Some people know it as Obamacare. Covers about 24 million people in this country now. Their plan, the Republican bill, would eliminate about 4 million people, a little over 4 million from the rolls. About 1 million people would lose subsidies because they are legal immigrants, but they would lose subsidies. People the plan would eliminate automatic renewals. So you would have to go through the steps of renewing your plan, even if you keep the same plan. That's going to eliminate about 700,000 people is the estimate. They're shortening enrollment periods, which will eliminate about 600,000 people. They're requiring more paperwork to sign up, which the expectation is that'll eliminate about another 600,000. And then there's a few other things that'll around the edges eliminate some people from the rolls. Like they're never going to outright say, hi, we're going to take away 10 million people's healthcare or 4 million people's healthcare. but they're nipping at it around the edges and making it harder for people who tend to work one or two jobs often, because the people on the ACA are people who do not get insurance through their job. And so that means they're probably working in retail, they're probably working in food service. They might be the parent to a disabled kid. They might have a really hectic, busy working class life. And creating all these little hurdles, it's like death by 1,000 cuts, and might literally be death for some of these people.
So the reaction to all of these cuts, of course, is coming not just from regular folks who are going to feel this, but from Democratic leaders as well. We've certainly heard some here in Wisconsin. I noticed that Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro was at a food bank, was asked what he thought of Trump's job so far. He did not exactly hold back.
No, he pretty much said what I think a lot of us think, which is that it's been chaos and incompetence and has done nothing to improve the lives of Americans. The governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, he held a press conference on Wednesday in Philly, shout out to my hometown, where he announced a lawsuit against the Trump administration because they essentially pulled out of a program that benefited Pennsylvania farmers. And those are the people that Trump allegedly cares about the most, farmers, the working class, the people who good old fashioned Americana. But all he's doing is making their lives harder. And, that's what Josh Shapiro pointed out. That's what, you see happening all across this country. There was a story in Virginia where he pardoned a corrupt ex-sheriff who took bribes. Just because, he loves to pardon corrupt people who took bribes or were sentenced to things. And his own voters in that county, in Culpeper County, Virginia, were mystified and shocked by this and criticized him for it because they know that this guy was a scumbag. And, that's just what Trump does. He's focused on vengeance and protecting similarly corrupt people, and not actually improving people's lives.
Oh, and we haven't even had time yet to get into the clemency that he granted to a drug kingpin who was one of the founders of the Gangster Disciples in the late 1960s. Guy's been behind bars for decades in Supermax, and Trump basically just commutes his sentence because, again, like you said, this is what he does. When you elect a convicted felon, expect the prison doors to be opened and guilty people put out and innocent people put in. Courier Newsroom's Kia Vakil. Thank you so much. Appreciate the review. Get out there and have a more restful week before you have to be subjected to all these headlines yet again.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Pat.
All right, coming up, today's history lesson, as we always do, mornings here across the Civic Media Radio Network, live from Lake Wissota. I'm Pat Kreitlow. You're up north.
dark of the moon on the 6th of June in a Kenworth pulling logs. Cab over Pete with a reefer on and a Jimmy hauling hogs.
That's right. The dark of the moon on the 6th of June, according to the C.W. McCall song Convoy from back in 1975 when everybody had their CB radios. Do you remember, was it yesterday or the day before, we were asking young Mr. Olson here about 8-track tapes because he had never heard of them.
Oh, yeah.
CB radios. Did you ever hear about that fad in the 1970s?
I gotta be honest with you, Pat, I don't even think I've heard that term.
CB radios?
Nope, don't think so.
Oh my gosh. I'll be right back. I got to put some more Metamucil in my coffee over here. Okay, let me see if I can do this. CB, you're familiar with walkie-talkies, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And maybe say police radios back in the day, you know, when they'd pick up the little microphone.
Yeah.
Well, citizen band radios, there was a part of the radio band that was there just for private use. And it got to be a real fad when they found a way to make these radios available to anybody. And so all kinds of drivers, starting with truckers, had these little radio units, and they would come up with names for themselves and the whole lingo. And the whole song is about all the lingo, the jargon that they use.
Okay, I like it.
Alicia's noting that semis still had them in the early 2000s, right before smartphones really caught on. Tony says they only work in Canada, CB standing for Canadian Broadcasting. Rimshot, please, everybody. No. Anyway, so that's what CB radios were. And that's the song Convoy.
Canadian Broadcasting, got it.
No. Tony, come on. Let's get back to the history, shall we? The first drive-in theater opened on this day in 1933 in Camden, New Jersey. Tell me you know about the old school technology of a drive-in theater.
I've never been to one, but I know of them,
You've
yes.
Never been to one. Oh, boy.
No.
The Four Tops, familiar with that at all? You ever notice when I'm talking to younger people on this program, it sounds like the worst first date ever, the conversation as it goes along here? Levi Stubbs, the late, great Levi Stubbs, lead vocalist for the Four Tops, was born this day in 1936.
Oh, man.
Come on, bring me the Four Tops. There we go. Here's what I got to do. I've got the entire box set of Motown records. Okay. Are you familiar with CDs? Not CB radios, but now CDs, compact discs.
CD, yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give you the box set of every Motown single, and I'm just going to have you listen to that front to back for a weekend.
I don't think I have a CD player, Pat.
I'm going to get you the box set and a CD player. Maybe I'll just have you download the whole thing, okay?
Send me the songs.
Singer Gary U.S. Bonds is 86 years old today. The Dixie Cups, one of their big hits, a Phil Spector Wall of Sound production, hit number 1 this day in 1964.
Going to the chapel and we're gonna get married.
I'm not even going to try to do 1964 with Mr. Parker here. Let's move to the 80s, where Kim Wilde took a Supremes hit and brought it to number 1 for the second time. The first time was in 1966 with Diana Ross and Friends. Here was Kim Wilde, number 1 this week in 1987. It's a very 80s version, but I think it does still stand the test of time. It keeps you hanging on.
It feels very 80s to me. Because I know that feel very well.
Yes. All right, I got one more birthday for you. Matthew Schaefer was born in Mount Clemens, Michigan, 51 years ago. Today, you know him better as Uncle Cracker.
You don't know how you met me. You don't know why.
I already mentioned that today is National Donut Day. It's also National Yo-Yo Day. Talk about old school. Does anybody play with yo-yos anymore?
I did as a kid, I think. I don't know if I knew how to use it, but I had one.
Okay. It's National Drive-In Movie Day, of course, for the anniversary that we just talked about. And now let me take a moment for 2 serious notes about the 6th of June. not from Convoy, but from real life. First, we'll start in 1942. And this marked the United States Navy's victory over the Imperial Japanese Navy in the Battle of Midway. It was a major turning point in the Pacific theater of World War II. And winning the Battle of Midway on this day in 1942 would have been enough. But then 2 years later came D-Day, the commencement of Operation Overlord, the Allied invasion of Normandy. It was the largest seaborne invasion in history. Nearly 160,000 Allied troops crossed the English Channel with about 5,000 landing and assault craft and hundreds of support vessels. All told, more than 4,000 men gave their lives before that day was over. These are heroes whose debt we can never repay. We can partially repay it, though, by remembering that time when we were able to save freedom from Nazi oppression. We can repay that debt by rededicating ourselves to never again letting Nazis and fascists weasel their way back into power. Or, if they do find a way to weasel themselves back into power, by standing up against what they want to do at every turn. Because democracy turned out to be more fragile than we ever would have guessed in the aftermath of that great war, when we thought that through everything that had happened on D-Day and everything before and after, that we had secured democracy and freedom and that we would never again take it for granted. And now, sadly, we have all kinds of people who take it for granted and are wielding their newfound powers in ways that, frankly, would offend everybody who was on the beaches of Normandy that day. We can do better collectively as a country. We must. And it starts with remembering their sacrifice and carrying our step forward from here. A lot to come. Our Week in Review panel, Dr. Kristin Lyerly, Mike Clemens, and more, here on this Friday morning, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. Hey,
Hey,
it's Friday.
tis. Where was Greg?
Where was Greg?
I was wondering about that.
I was wondering about that too.
I don't know, man. I thought he
Oh.
was. No, because he's prepping for his show. Never mind.
Yeah.
I don't
All
know.
right. Okay.
I can message him about it. I don't know.
All right. Okay.
I'm talking to Brittany right now. She doesn't want to be on camera. Can she join StreamYard and just go audio?
Oh, was I muted by then? Said, yeah, she can keep her camera off.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, sorry.
You're good.
Senor Santel, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you this morning?
I'm okay. Let's see. We got stuff already. We got stuff.
We got stuff. I was
Let me
just
get to my
sending you
stuff. Yeah, I'm sure you were. I'm sure that. Where did it go? Oh, hang on. I lost my place
just
here.
about to drop something in the chat. We're good.
Let me see. There's the AmeriCorps setback. There's a hearing today from attorneys general over election rules. There's the Harvard ruling. So much fun.
All kinds of things. And
So much
three
job security.
other Supreme Court cases. They're all unanimous, and one of them having to do with Wisconsin. It's Wisconsin Charities. So
Yes. Okay.
lots of things. But
Yeah.
good. All right.
All right. Good to
All
have
right.
you
I'll
here.
just stay put. Great.
Alrighty.
Brittany should be coming in audio only.
Okie dokie. Brittany,
Hey,
how you doing?
I'm hanging in there. Better now-ish, kind of.
Oh no. What did they do to you?
They tortured me.
Oh gosh. All right. Here we go.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Minnesota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Hey, good morning. It is 7:06. Nice to have you here up north on this Friday morning, June 6th, 2025. Coming up, of course, it being Friday, our Week in Review panel. We will have former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel here, Chicago journalist Jennifer Schulze, and in place of Mark Jacob, we will have Chicago radio show host Joan Esposito joining us. I was on her show in Chicago on Wednesday talking all about Wisconsin news and politics, and she's going to join us as part of our panel here. And then we'll have our new weekly sports segment in our next hour when Civic Media's Mike Clemens joins us. We'll talk about the Red Hot Brewers, that very exciting finish to Game 1 of the NBA Finals yesterday, and Aaron Rodgers finally making it official. The newest bromance. We don't have the Trump-Elon Musk bromance anymore. We now have the one between Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin. And how long is that one going to last before it blows up in sensational fashion? And will it do so before or after Week 5 when the Steelers and the Packers play? We'll talk to Mike Clemens about all of that. Coming up around 8:30 or so here. So that's all what's coming up. Brittany Merlot is standing by with a forecast as well. But first, it's time for the Scotty Summer Text to Win contest. This is something that's done statewide across the network 4 times a day, where you can either win $100 cash or a pair of Brewers Club level tickets. And each entry puts you into the drawing for one of the grand prizes, a weekend getaway, one in the Wisconsin Dells area, one in Door County, some gas money to get there as well. Each time we do this, there's a different keyword that you need to text us through the Civic Media app. So be sure you've got that app downloaded from Apple, Google, wherever. And then when you're in the app, just go to one of the stations on the app and use the text button. And that way you can hear, use the text button. That way you can send us this hour's keyword, and this hour's prize is $100, and the keyword is warm. WARM, warm. It's got to be spelled correctly, and just send the keyword, nothing else. You have until the end of the hour to text us the keyword warm. Your next chances to play will come at 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m., different keywords each time. Again, for $100 this hour's prize, the keyword to text us is warm. Let's see if there's any warmth in the forecast by turning to meteorologist Brittany Merlot, who's back with us after there we go. Let's see, we got Alicia putting on YouTube. Welcome back, Brittany. I hope you're feeling better soon. Robin Tigerson says, Brittany, I hope and pray you feel better soon as well. So let's just say you were missed, girl.
Oh my gosh, I miss you guys so much too. Thank you so much for all the love and the good wishes. I needed it this week. It was a rough week, that's for sure.
Oh,
but,
I'm so sorry to
I'm
hear
on
that.
the mend. I'm
All
on
right.
the mend.
Good. Well, and I kind of feel like we are from a weather standpoint in terms of, that Canadian wildfire smoke earlier this week was just so bad. And I'm so glad that it appears to have moved on. But now we've got a weekend that appears to be is unsettled the right word?
Yeah, that's a pretty good word to use, I'd say.
Okay.
We've got a lot going on and off, spotty showers, chances for small storms all throughout the weekend. So I'm going to try my best to time it all out for you. So right now, this morning, we're waking up to the mid-50s north, mid-60s south. We're looking at more clouds than sunshine out there, some light drizzle pushing through central areas. We've got some scattered showers moving into far northern areas. And that's going to stay the case through this morning and into the afternoon. Kind of those spotty showers staying far north. And those could turn into some small storms later this afternoon, staying in the northern half of the state. Now, in central parts and further south, you're still looking at drizzle chances possible on and off, or some clouds kind of taking away your sunshine. But otherwise, highs today kind of comfortable, mid-60s north to mid-70s south. And then tomorrow, we've got this system moving in, and it's going to give us a high-pressure system early. So some sunshine to start the day tomorrow. But then some more scattered midday showers are possible, especially south. Highs will hit the low to mid-70s, so still staying comfortable, a little bit cooler on Saturday. And then we've got a front moving in overnight and into early Sunday morning. Now, this is going to move in northwest around midnight. Tomorrow night, showers and storms work their way through the state early in the morning, making their way into southeastern areas by Sunday afternoon. And some of those could be on the stronger side, but it's also going to give us a lot more rainfall, moderate rainfall there, where we could see up to an inch or so in places north, maybe a quarter of an inch to a half an inch in places south. But, of course, a damp, darker, dreary kind of weekend, low 70s on Sunday statewide, and that damp, dreary weather continues into our Monday, too, with light rain likely. But I don't want to end it on such a sad note. I hate, dampening people's weekends plans. So as we move into next week, it does dry out and it does warm up. So everyone wanting the summer temperatures, they're around the corner still.
That's great because, right now, after all that love we just gave you, they're turning on you already. Here's Tony. Tony says, geez, first day back and you give me storms on National Donut Day.
Oh, the donuts will make it better.
Tony, you can eat the donuts indoors, buddy. Yes, you can do it that way. Good morning from Tigerton, says Rob. Cloudy, a few sprinkles, 59 degrees. I was busy on my birthday yesterday mowing 2 big yards and had a birthday pizza at Blazer's Bar and Grill in Split Rock. He said the bank in Tigerton had a birthday greeting at the front in the street there. Says that his Uncle Randy had an 8-track tape of Convoy. Smokey and the Bandit was a great movie with all that CB talk. We mentioned D-Day in our last segment, and he says World War II, that was a true American heroes generation, amazing people that went through the Great Depression and World War II. And then he says, thank you, Dr. Kristin Lyerly, for putting a birthday greeting for me on her Facebook wall. It was a great birthday, and it was our pleasure to add to those greetings on your birthday post there that Kristin put up for you, Rob. So again, thanks for being part of our radio family. And
yes, happy birthday, Rob. I'm so sorry that I missed it, and it sounds like you had a wonderful day and you deserve that.
He does, and he acknowledges that we do need the rain as well. So we will get through the weekend on all this. You keep feeling better, and we'll hope to see you on Monday.
Thank you so much. You guys
All
have a
right.
good weekend.
Yep. See you later. There's Brittany Merlot with a little weather update for us at 7:13 on this Friday with a reminder again, our Scotty Summer Text to Win contest. Keyword for this hour is warm, WARM, and it's worth $100. We're going to pull one of those texts at random and give you that prize, and you'll be in the running for the grand prizes too. Just looking over at the text line here, all the folks that are sending in the keyword, and interspersed in there is Tom from Jackson saying it's great to hear Brittany again. Best wishes to her. And I have got to hand it to one of our folks who takes issue with a lot of what we say now and then, and that of course would be Mark in Sussex. And I want to get to just I want to read the text just so, because we did talk about all the money that Elon Musk put into getting Donald Trump elected. And I said that, yes, it did make a difference. And Mark from Sussex on the text line says, please, Harris, I have to clean this up. Harris wasted over $1 billion in 3 months. How easily libs forget that. And then 10 minutes later, he writes, no comeback. And, well, on that one, I can plead guilty because I wasn't looking at my text window, Mark. But the fact of the matter is, Mark, I don't have a great comeback for you. I don't. I don't like that Elon Musk could spend $300 million, but I also don't like how the Democratic presidential campaign raised $1 billion and how they used it. And not just how they used it during the campaign. But what always bothers me is campaigns and parties, they always spend down to zero. And I understand the thought behind it is, you don't want to leave anything on the table. You want to run all the way through the finish line. I get that. I get that sentiment. But this is the only time you can raise the money, and it's not the only time you need it. And if there's one thing, and I can only speak for, Democratic circles, I'll let somebody else speak for Republican circles. Democrats need more year-round investment, year-round organizing, year-round messaging than ever before. And there's still too many people that think, well, all those text messages that we sent to raise money before Election Day, we'll just keep sending those texts out. And I'm still getting those texts. And I'm not sending a dime in. I haven't been for a long time anyway. I keep getting the text just so I can see what they're saying. But I tell you, I get on my soapbox about this all the time. So, Mark, you raise a good point. We can definitely do an autopsy on how the Harris-Walz campaign spent their money. But it was their money. It wasn't Elon Musk taking advantage of all the loopholes and putting money into places. It's wild now, thanks to Citizens United and thanks to the Wisconsin legislature. We still have these things called maximum donations where, and I don't remember the maximum numbers anymore, so I'm plucking this number out of thin air. Okay, I'm going to give the Kreitlow campaign $10,000 because that's what the maximum is. But I'm going to give the party $1 million. And I'm going to tell them I expect it to be, done on the Kreitlow campaign. And theoretically, if there's a paper trail, somebody could be prosecuted for it, but it never, ever happens. And so this whole system is broken so badly, and the way certain parties deal with the money that they raise is broken so badly. I've got nothing good to say about any of it. So my point still stands about how no one person, the world's richest man, should not be able to put this much money into political campaigns. But Mark in Sussex is also right that we really have to take issue with the way that our money is used, no matter who we are. If we gave it to Donald Trump, if we gave it to Kamala Harris, if we gave it to a party, if we gave it to a group, I don't know that anybody feels like they're getting what they can for their investment. Which leads me to a pledge drive. We're currently doing one at Up North News. We do one every quarter because, like lots of other organizations, we rely on donations of all sizes to get things done. There are some big ones out there. There are some mid-sized ones out there. And there's all kind of small dollar ones, too, that I appreciate. And I appreciate it because when I helped start Up North News, initially the mailing address was for a Courier newsroom, cubicle somewhere in New York City or Washington, D.C., I forget what. And I said, no, that's not going to do. Nobody's going to want to send us mail that has to be rerouted from New York or D.C. So I went down to the Chippewa Falls post office. I said, could I have a P.O. box, please? And they said, here you go. Here's the key to number 27. So P.O. Box 27 in Chippewa Falls, 54729 is where we have been collecting, little 10 and 25 and 50 and the occasional $100 donation for, these past 5.5 years. And I'm so grateful for every one of them. A lot of times they come with just a little note, like what you do, keep doing what you're doing. Occasionally we get the not so nice email. I don't think any have come from Mark in Sussex yet, but Mark, you can send a note there too, to P.O. Box 27. And just want to say, if you like what we're doing, again, we are separate from Civic Media, separate entity all the way here. Love the partnership. But if you want to support Up North News, that's one way to do it. The easier, faster way would be to go on the website. And there's a way up top there to support Up North News that way and support Courier Newsroom as well. We appreciate it all. Former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel is standing by, as is Joan Esposito, Jennifer Schulze. We will talk about all the week's headlines, starting with the bromance breakup. Coming up right after this, I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Tell you what, Tony, I was preaching. I was going to go to church on this one. Hello, friends.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Which one of you has the fan blowing over there besides me? Let's see. I'm gonna play mute the microphones. Let's try this one. Nope, it's not Jennifer. Let's try
laptop.
Oh yeah, that's you, Joan. What's your laptop doing?
Well, I think if I close my laptop, the fan will stop, but I think that also means that it will cut off my microphone.
Yes, it will. We can't have that. No. Just so I know where it is. I didn't want it to be a mystery. So
I don't know why it does this. It's not hot or anything. It has its own. It has its own intellect, and it decides, oh, I need
AI
a fan today.
I'm sorry, Joan. You can't close me.
Yeah, really.
Open
the laptop doors, Joan.
Too fun. All right, let's see. Got keywords coming in. I got this. Jennifer, did you put something online this week?
I don't remember.
Again, the need to feed the beast.
I didn't write anything this week. I'm trying to write something right now, but it's not coming together. So
Okay.
no, I can talk about anything you want though. Besides that.
Oh, I know that. I don't want to miss a chance to
don't.
promote
I don't.
things.
Pat, I don't know how she sounds to you, but to me, Jennifer is pretty low.
Are you low, Jennifer?
Am I low? What does that even mean?
I don't know. You sound pretty
your
good to
volume
me.
seems low.
I think she's fine.
I think
She's
Am I
coming in.
good?
She's coming in.
You know, I'm somebody who always uses my outside voice, so everybody sounds low to me.
Are you running, Joan? Are you running off headphones or a computer speaker, or earphones or a computer speaker? You have earphones in?
I've got them.
Okay. I'm just thinking that might help hear us better if that helps
I don't
you.
know.
Okay.
This won't work though. This is set up for my Comrex system.
Ah, okay. No worries. All right, 15 seconds. Here we go. Time to have some fun. The Scotty Summer Text to Win contest keyword this hour is warm. So again, WARM. Use your Civic Media app and send us that keyword warm before the end of this hour. Again, Brewers baseball against San Diego. Coverage begins at 6:35 on stations in Richland Center, Oshkosh, Racine, Kenosha, Park Falls, and Hayward. All right, let's get to one of the best parts of doing this job. Is every week I've got this wonderful week in review panel that includes former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel, as well as Chicago journalist Jennifer Schulze and Joan Esposito, who is an afternoon host at WCPT. Hello, panel. How are y'all?
Hi, good morning.
Doing well.
Happy Friday,
Yeah.
everybody.
All right. Here, I want to get all these promos right. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, is heard weekdays from 2 to 5 on WCPT Radio in Chicago. Find the links over at heartlandsignal.com. And then, of course, Jennifer's newsletter on Substack is called Indistinct Chatter. Go to substack.com/@newsjennifer. And then there's that Jim Santel program on Saturdays, Amicus, a law review, Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. across the Civic Media Radio Network. Learn more at civicmedia.us. And Jim, I guess we'll start with you this time simply because, once again, there are court cases in the news, and we're going to start with the one that involves Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul taking a victory lap, and deservedly so, because, again, among the many, 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 many lawsuits designed to say to Donald Trump, you can't do that, this latest one deals with AmeriCorps, which would have cut a whole lot of community jobs in Wisconsin. What happened there?
Absolutely. So what we have is a judge. This is a district court judge. This is not coming out of the Supreme Court. We've got a federal judge just yesterday who says that stopping the Trump administration from blocking the dismantling of AmeriCorps. I know that's double negatives here. Basically, AmeriCorps gets a new lease on life. And of course, this is this independent federal agency that facilitates public community service opportunities. And so it's a big deal. You've got a judge basically saying that the president can't do this. Here's one of the pieces that the judge writes. So it says, any harm the defendants might face if the agency actions are enjoined pales in comparison to the concrete harms the states and the communities served by AmeriCorps programs have suffered and will continue to suffer. That's basically a balancing of the interests by this particular judge. It is a big loss for the administration. It is a big win, again, for attorneys general throughout the United States of America. And AmeriCorps gets another lease on life. Here's the other piece of this, as we're always saying these days, which is likely this will go up on appeal, could end up before the Supreme Court one day. But at least for now, AmeriCorps and all the good things that it does, still intact by virtue of what Judge Deborah Boardman, Federal District Court in Maryland, has done just this past week. It's significant.
It is, as is the other ruling, a federal judge ruling late yesterday, Jennifer, that temporarily blocks the Trump administration's effort to prevent Harvard from enrolling international students. I don't know what Donald Trump's track record is on all these lawsuits. I believe he's still, well, it's a mixed record, shall we say, but it's certainly not one where he can get away with everything. But the question becomes, how many of these rulings that say you can't do that is he going to ignore, and will there ever be any consequences for it?
Somebody did an analysis, I believe it was just last week, that found that Trump had lost in federal court 92% of the time. So he is losing. The question is he following the rulings, like you said? And, is anything actually changing? You keep reading these stories about how such agency was ordered to rehire people, but they haven't been rehired. Another agency was ordered to pay those grants, but they didn't pay the grants. It seems to me that we don't know how all of this is being dealt with, actually. We see the headlines, setback for Donald Trump. But how is that actually being implemented? If it's being implemented, is really, I think, confusing and hard to keep track of.
Well, yeah, because you even have cases, Joan, we've had people that have where courts have said they should be, freed, or they should at least get their due process, and instead they're put on planes and sent out of the country. And I don't know how much longer that goes on before there's some kind of a breaking point with a president who is ignoring the courts.
Well, I don't know if he did this as a sop to people like us who can point to something where he complied, but there was a man from Guatemala who had been shipped back to Guatemala, who's now been returned to the United States. Now, when they returned him via charter flight, that must have been pricey. They took him into custody immediately, so he's still not out of the legal woods, but they did return him. And I was thinking to myself when I read this, okay, why this guy? They've been fighting to the death over Abrego Garcia, but this guy from Guatemala gets admittedly wrongly shipped to Guatemala, and then suddenly they're chartering a flight to bring him back. So I don't know. I mean, it's really hard. There are so many court cases, and it's really hard to do the follow-up on, is he going to comply? Is he going to comply? Because as you guys all know, there's time for an appeal. The judge has to decide, what action needs to be taken, prior to the appeal, or maybe we're going to wait for the appeal. It's really hard. I find it hard to track the follow-up to these cases until, somebody really focuses in on one particular person and follows that person. You're absolutely right. I mean, is he going to comply? Maybe when he feels like it. I don't know.
But so often they just wait for the attention to die down, Jim. And I've got under a minute, so I'm not going to ask you to expound on this too much. But again, because of the speed that courts have to use, which is deliberate, we hear about these setbacks, but we don't usually know that there's any big follow-up. So let me ask you about that on the backside, because we're up against the break here. And we've just been whetting your appetite for the main event. Oh my goodness, the biggest breakup it was WrestleMania for politics, I guess. Trump versus Musk still is, but I mean, what does it actually mean to the rest of us and that big bloated boondoggle of Trump's? We'll talk about that on the other side. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, now we're in break here, and this is the big 5-minute one here. So I'll let you guys do your thing for a bit, and then I don't have any specific line of questioning in here. We're just going to get into the Schadenfreude of it all. So
and that sounds great.
Go ahead,
just
Jim.
to be clear, as we're making notes, we're talking about the Audra McDonald Patty Lupone breakup. That's the one we're discussing.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the one that I'm
Pat, can
really
you hear
concerned
me?
about here.
Yes, I can, Joan. Yep, you sound great.
This is a really old headset
Uh-huh.
that I'm trying to use.
Yep.
So you should have the fan noise gone. I was able to shut the computer.
Yes, the fan noise is gone, and your sound quality is a little bit different, but it's still very good.
Which would you prefer?
I prefer this to having the fan in the background.
Yep. It's slightly more muffled, but not like muffled, but almost like it's. What'd you say? It was an older microphone or something?
I use headsets, but not a headset with a microphone, and I found a headset with a microphone. So I was hoping this might work, but it's not the newest model, shall we say?
No, that's okay. It's good. So we're set there. So Jim, obviously, we can all jump in on Musk and Trump, but in terms of where we go with it from a legal standpoint and whether there's anything here.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about, again, especially following up on our previous segment. We do have 4 judges who are this close to finding the government in contempt on the deportations. One of them is Abrego Garcia. We've got hundreds of others out there, but there are 4 judges who have their hair on fire right now. Yeah. Here's what has to happen. And I'll say this on the air. Somebody's got to go to jail.
That's really it. I mean, and then, can Trump then pardon them and they're out of jail within the hour?
Right.
And then what kind of crisis does that cause? So
right, absolutely. But they've got to move this up. The judges have been very, very gentle about this, even while saying nobody's doing what I'm directing them to do. Yeah. We are in undeniably a constitutional crisis right now. We saw that in the rearview mirror. We're way beyond that. The question now is what happens next.
Right.
And the judges have to up their game and basically put somebody, I don't know if it's Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, I know it's Pam Bondi, Christy Noem, somebody has got to spend some time in jail because they're not complying. It's just that simple.
All right, we're back in 2 minutes. I'm going to get some coffee. Be right back. Still ahead, we'll talk sports with Civic Media's Mike Clemens, and we'll be visited in just after the 8 o'clock news by Dr. Kristin Lyerly about comments made by Assembly Speaker Robin Vos telling a room full of doctors, you need to do your research. I'm sure that went over really well. All right, let's get to it. We've got a great panel here. Jennifer Schulze, Joan Esposito, Jim Santel all here. Mark Jacob is off this week. And where do we begin? Let me describe how it all unfolded for me. I work here for a couple hours after the show and was starting to get the little things about Elon Musk saying this bill's got to be killed and Donald Trump saying, no, I'm really disappointed in Elon. And then I stepped away for a while, ran some errands and things. I come back to the desk and it's like, basically my computer was almost on fire. There was just so much going back and forth between, accusing Trump of, being with Jeffrey Epstein and Trump saying, let's cancel the SpaceX contracts and him saying, fine, we'll decommission the rocket and strand your astronauts, and other people saying, let's send Elon Musk back to Africa. And Jennifer, I'll start with you. It was all delicious in a way. And then afterwards, the aftertaste is like, wait, what does it really change? And it's a very unsatisfying answer in the beginning, I think.
I'm not sure what it really changes. It remains to be seen if these two will patch things up or not. And the implications, I think, could be pretty enormous for Musk, for example. I mean, he has a lot of money in government contracts. Trump could take those away. That would have a significant impact. Trump could really go after Musk in a big way, and Musk could really go after Trump in a big way by funding, challengers to Republicans in the 2026 midterms. I thought, though, my takeaway was, what a disgusting bunch of people to have that much power. I mean, I've thought that for a long time about both of them, but it was just an eye into... they both have so much power over so much, and watching that unfold was nauseating.
It was so both things, Joan. It was nauseating, and yet it was kind of you love to see it. It's the meme with Jon Stewart and the box of popcorn and everything else. There was just a lot of feels yesterday.
A lot of feels. One of the things I said on the air yesterday was, what they say in politics, there are no friends, there are no enemies, there are only interests. This is a perfect opportunity for us to try to get some benefit out of Elon Musk, even if we don't bring him into the fold, which I think is never going to happen. But, have him go ahead and threaten. Laura Loomer posted something that she'd been on Capitol Hill talking to legislators, and they just didn't know whether to throw in with Musk or to throw in with Trump. And Musk reposted that and said, Trump's going to be gone in 3.5 years. I'm going to be here for the next 40 years.
Unless he goes up in one of his rockets and it goes boom. I mean,
and Trump could die, choking on a McDonald's hamburger
right.
too.
But
I think anything that he does that causes pain for Donald Trump is a plus. It's a win, and I'll take it.
So, Jim, with all of the back and forth, there were threats to cancel contracts because, again, Donald Trump thinks he can unilaterally do pretty much anything. And meanwhile, excuse me, people are looking at Elon Musk like, hey, I think you overstayed your visa back in the day. Maybe you can be deported. From a legal standpoint, even, there was a lot that you could decide to juggle and examine further.
Sure, absolutely. And it harkens back to those early days when all of us looked at this relationship and said, this will not last. And sure enough, we were all right. Everybody was right about that. But it goes to this larger issue, which is, you think about all of the legal things that have followed in the wake of, I don't refer to it as Doge because it's not a department,
no.
The Musk team doing all these things, the damage that he has caused in an unofficial capacity, not only thousands of people losing their jobs, bringing down agencies that provide good things for the American public. And now you walk away from it, and we're now focusing upon this spat, which is more than that, between people, neither of whom is a serious person. Elon Musk is not a serious person. Donald Trump is not a serious person. They are not committed to what government should do for people. And it is shocking. We should be stunned by the fact Yes, indeed, that now they're at odds with each other. But in the wake of what? In the wake of a coming through again with a chainsaw, with a wrecking ball, use your metaphor, and note that once again, the result of this relationship, bad from the start, is that our government is diminished today, and we are all diminished by that.
Oh, my goodness, yes. And Jennifer, I was looking at the text line, and here's one from Dan. Seeing Trump and Musk arguing would be like watching an episode of The Real Housewives screaming at each other. Don't care. They're just wagging the dog and using news oxygen. And that gets us into the newsroom debate about this, because on one of the cable channels, Jake Tapper was just beside himself reading every one of them and every one of the tweets and the posts and everything. And meanwhile, over on MSNBC, which you'd think would be reveling in it, you had Nicole Wallace, who was actually trying to kind of keep her eye on the ball in terms of, the real threats to due process and things like that. And if you're in the news business, I'm going to emphasize the business of it. Again, it's a weird tightrope to walk of how much exposure you give to the circus without losing sight of what's really happening, Jen.
And the New York Times this morning, the front page is screenshots of all these tweets, the huge page. And I think you can do both. You can look at the circus and you can talk about the actual impacts of the circus, the potential for Musk yesterday threatened not to send a rocket up to the International Space Station to get the astronauts. That would be serious. Trump is threatening to take away Elon Musk's contracts. I mean, I'm okay with that myself, but that would be serious for him. Elon Musk's car company, Tesla, suffered a huge stock loss yesterday with all of the chaos. So there are lots of impacts. But yes, it is juicy. It's entertaining. As AOC said, the girls are fighting. Someone else on social media had a meme that said alien versus predator.
Yep.
And somebody else said alien versus sexual predator. People are going to get a lot of mileage out of it. But at the end, again, I come back to the fact that these two have been in charge of the government together. I've called Musk co-president. For 4+ months. And like Jim said, what they have done to the country and to the world. There are children dying in Africa because Musk stopped the funding for PEPFAR. The consequences are so grave that I have to not let myself get too carried away with today's soap opera.
We've certainly had those discussions here, both from an Up North News standpoint and a civic media standpoint. Joan, from a radio standpoint, when you take callers, it's again, how much fun do you have with it, basically, because the girls are fighting, as they like to say, versus not feeling like you're being used, we're watching the monkeys while, somebody else is picking your pocket.
Yeah, it's a sort of a decision that, Pat, I'm sure you do the same thing. I kind of feel it out and make these decisions on the fly. After initially reporting some of the first back and forth, I told my audience, I said, I'm not going to be doing this all afternoon. I am not going to be completely watching this banter. We've got other stuff to do. We've got other people to talk to. And then I had a great interview. And at the end of the interview, I said, okay, I can't help it. I have to tell you what happened in the last few minutes, because that was the Laura Loomer thing, because that's what I was thinking. There are a lot of people in elected office right now at the federal level who are sweating this out. Because, on the one hand, you've got this, when you had Trump's anger and Musk's money paired together, that was a 1-2 punch that you couldn't fight. But now, do you go with the angry guy who will try to find some kind of revenge, or the guy who potentially could give you enough money to sail to re-election? That's going to be a tough one. That's, I think, an interesting story.
Lots of people are caught in the middle. Jim, not the least of them are the various attorneys, and we've already seen instances where lawyers have either been let go or have left rather than deal with all of this. A lot of it is not at the feet of Trump so much as Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. And I saw a note, I think early this morning, about, once again, this is another effort to get Pam Bondi disbarred in the state of Florida, which has been unsuccessful before. It probably will be again, but they're bringing it up to make the case I think they just want to keep it out there that an attorney general is not supposed to be the president's personal attorney and political henchperson, and that's exactly what Pam Bondi's doing.
And that is a break of tradition from, with the exception of Trump 1, of every single administration. I worked for 9 different attorneys general during my time with the Department of Justice. In each one of them, the attorney general would consistently say arm's length with the White House. So dramatic that when I was U.S. attorney, the instruction was, you get any call from the White House, you report it right away back to Main Justice. You do not respond to those phone calls. Now you've got our attorney general, the chief federal law enforcement officer for this nation, talking about how the Department of Justice works for not the American people, not in support of the Constitution, but we are supporting the President of the United States of America, and we're terminating those folks and suspending them if, in fact, they don't go to that proposition in court and out of court. It is a complete turning on its head of how the Department of Justice is supposed to work. And it can work in bad ways too, not only supporting the president, but some real injustice out there when it comes to taking all your cues from who it is the president wants prosecuted and not. We've already seen that investigations. It is dangerous at the highest levels.
Today, Democratic state attorneys general are going to seek to block Trump's proposal for a sweeping overhaul of U.S. elections. It's a case that's going to test a constitutional bedrock, the separation of powers. These top law enforcement officials from 19 states have filed a federal lawsuit after Trump signed an executive order in March. They're going to argue its provisions would step on states' power to set their own election rules and that the executive branch has no such authority. Jim, obviously Josh Call is a part of that. I'm sure that's not going to sit well with Ann Jacobs, who chairs the Wisconsin Elections Commission either, that there needs to be, states were given the ability to write their own election rules. Donald Trump doesn't get to write them for the state.
Exactly right. It's a real simple answer, Mr. President. Take a look at your Constitution. Oh, that's right. You don't take a look at it.
I don't know if I'm supposed to or not.
Right?
Yeah, right.
But James Madison said the times, place, circumstances of how we do elections in America, where do those go? Those are reserved to the states. And that's the reason why California does things differently than we do in Wisconsin, different in Illinois, other places. That's reserved to the states. It is not a federal issue. And of all the branches of government, the president is the one that has nothing to do with these kinds of things. It is a matter for the Wisconsin Election Commission, the Illinois Election Commission. They're the ones who do that. It's in the Constitution. This should once again be easy for a federal judge to look at and say in a 2-page order, you're out of luck once again, Mr. President, can't do this. And we'll go down this road once again of seeing whether or not he complies with it. The rule of law issue, the constitutional crisis that we are in right now adds more fuel to that fire and maybe ultimately ends up at the Supreme Court. This is the loop we're in right now. This should not be a difficult decision.
It shouldn't be, and yet it is. Amicus, a law review, can be heard live on Saturdays with Jim Santel, 9 to 11 on civic media stations all around Wisconsin. Jennifer Schulze's newsletter is on Substack, Indistinct Chatter. Search for @NewsJennifer. And, of course, you've got Joan Esposito live, local and progressive on WCPT in Chicago weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m. That there is our Week in Review panel. Some folks will be sticking around, and they're going to do a little overtime work for us talking about this week's issues. For the rest of you, this is the Civic Media Radio Network. All right. If any of you can hang on and do one more segment, feel free because okay. We had a 7:50 guest, but we've now moved that to 8:30. So, and it's not just because I heard Joan on the radio today or the other day saying, well, I'm only on for a little bit from 7:20 to 7:50. So at that point, I realized what a good thing I had and said, let's see if they'll
I've shamed you into keeping us.
Oh, I prefer nudged. You can nudge me.
And just to go on the record, I want to say that Jennifer and Joan are serious people. So you take them seriously when they say those things, right?
There you go. Thank you,
right.
Jim. Thank you.
That is right. Let's see where I was going to go next. Joan and or Jennifer on getting back to the big bloated bill, and where does this all go from there? Because I think we're still where we were at the start of yesterday, which was I don't know what's going to happen in the Senate, and I'm in the minority on this. I readily admit. But, they couldn't get a budget passed the last 2 Octobers. They had to kick the can. And they really do need to pass this. But I really don't know that they're going to get something through. And again, everybody else says, no, they will get something done. But I just want to put my marker out there, and I'm happy to be wrong. But I don't know. This talk about a gang that can't shoot straight,
Well, I think, we can save it for I think that it's going to take a lot longer than John Thune says. I don't think there is going to be a bill for Trump to sign by July 4th.
No.
And when you've got members of Congress, the other house, I think, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, check me on that story, but certainly this fellow from Michigan, others saying, especially related to the legal stuff, oh, I didn't know that was in that bill. If I had known that, I wouldn't have voted for it. This is what happens again, Mr. Speaker, when you jam this through in a day and a half, right?
Yesterday's show title was Why Can't Marjorie Read? Take on Why Can't Johnny Read? And today's show title was Alien versus Predator. So it makes it really easy. And then Jennifer, you've got the New York Times normalizing the West Point speech. And I've got another New York Times example I'm going to bounce off of you as well.
About the bill, the budget bill, I have been struck by about the talking points that Republicans are using about Medicaid, particularly. And like yesterday, Senator Langford of Oklahoma was on CNBC, and he made this outrageous claim that no one's going to lose Medicaid. They're going to be transferred to private insurance. And the hosts were like, next question. And I think that is fascinating.
I know. All right, 15 seconds. Here we go. Coming up next in 1 hour, Matt and Air on Air. Jane and Greg will be along. And this morning's guest in the 10 o'clock hour is Dan Schaefer, political editor for Civic Media, founder of the Recombobulation Area. And, of course, their segment every morning at 10:50, This Shouldn't Be a Thing, which we could say about yesterday. Yesterday shouldn't have been a thing, but it was. And so our panel sticks around for a little extra time on that. And we'll talk about where does the bill go from here? Because, again, this all started because Trump's, big bloated boondoggle is sitting in the Senate. It's going to get changed. Will it pass or not? And that's what Musk and Trump were fighting over. Jennifer, right now, again, it's only a prediction, but, where does this go for Senate Republicans? What are they going to end up doing either by July 4th or by some other date?
I think it depends a lot on what kind of uproar is generated in the states where a lot of these critical Republican votes reside. Like Susan Collins, she might be somebody who, is getting a lot of blowback. I think she
concerned?
might be
I think
concerned.
she's deeply concerned.
She's deeply concerned. Oh, my goodness.
But I think that one of the tells is that they are, a lot of the Republicans are relying on talking points that are, I'll be generous here, untruthful.
Yes.
As I said in the break, Oklahoma Senator James Langford was on CNBC yesterday during a live interview, and he said, oh, well, it's no big deal. No one's going to lose Medicaid. They're all going to go to private insurance.
Unreal.
That is absolutely not true.
Mm-hmm.
It is not true. And the two hosts of this program just went on to the next question. But that's the kind of thing that's happening out there, where they're not being honest about what the bill does, and they're really reaching for some serious lies about what they say it will or won't do. And I think in the next week or so, how that all plays out is going to have a big impact on whether they can get away with voting for something that really does a lot of terrible things to a lot of people.
By the way, breaking news just coming in out of Maine. Susan Collins is deeply concerned about the way her husband is making scrambled eggs this morning and not keeping them in the pan long enough. Joan, look, I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm just saying that if you go talk to people on the street and if you ask a lot of people the difference between Medicaid and Medicare, you're going to get a lot of blank stares. It's just not something a lot of people think about until they need it. And so many people need Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. Has all of this, I'm going to put on my rose-colored glasses, has all of this helped people better understand what Medicaid is, all these talks about, the cuts and all the people that are going to be hurt? Or even after all of this, do we find that too many people don't know, don't care, and as long as it doesn't affect them personally, let Trump do whatever he wants?
Well, I've used this as a teaching moment on my show. I don't try to explain technically what the differences are, but what I say over and over again, Grandma and Grandpa in the nursing home, a lot of them are there with the help of Medicaid. So those families might be getting a call saying, hey, you've either got to pony up X more $1,000 a month, or you got to come get Grandpa and Grandma and bring them home because our Medicaid payments have been cut off. Poor children, disabled people. These aren't people, who can, as the Republicans, the reason they get away with that or try to get away with that insurance argument is because these Medicaid people are going to actually get jobs. So they're going to get insurance through their jobs. But the vast majority of people on Medicaid who can work are already working, and the rest of them can't. So I try to say it in a way that isn't just, this is a theoretical bad thing. Grandma and Grandpa are coming home. Grandma and Grandpa, you better clear out a back room because Grandma and Grandpa are coming home from the nursing home because the nursing home is staying afloat with Medicaid. And if you live in a rural area, you may be driving an hour and a half to get to the hospital because your local rural hospital is going to close. I think that's what people can understand.
They do. Shameless plug, by the way, on the website right now, upnorthnewswi.com. There's an article by one Pat Kreitlow on there. Everything Wisconsin needs to know about Trump's cuts to Medicaid and Badger Care. It is Medicaid 101 for everybody in Wisconsin. Head over to the website and read it. Jim, as an attorney, you come from the king of jargon. And so again, helping people understand all of these things. I mean, they're turning toward, their attorney, anybody that can explain whether this is going to affect them or not. And I can only imagine what some of those conversations are like for people's private attorneys going, I don't know, I can write you a will or a trust, but I can't tell you what's going to happen to your Medicaid.
In so many areas, right? Medicaid, the future of the education department, right? All these things out there that affect people on a day-to-day basis. And the answer, whether it's stuffed inside a 1,000-page bill that members of Congress do not read before they vote on it, or if it is something else that is just, again, as we talked before, the floodgates of all of this happening, being reversed, being reinstated, it has become, again, no violin playing here at all, but it is a challenge for lawyers to be able to advise their clients wisely. Even in the immigration area, deportation, obviously that's a huge issue with respect to the process by which one becomes a citizen, may be deported, all of those kinds of things, hugely dependent upon what happens this hour, next hour. And again, when lawyers are also being attacked at the same time and cannot represent their clients well, it is a double blow.
We did not even get to Jennifer's most recent column, which talks about the New York Times sane washing that crazy West Point speech that President Trump made. So we'll try to grab that another time. But in the meantime, read her on Substack, Joan Esposito on WCPT, and Jim Santel tomorrow morning here on Amicus, a law review. Panel, thank you so very much for sticking around. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Pleasure, Pat.
Thank you.
All right. Good to see you all. And one more time, our keyword this time around in the Civic Media Scotty Summer Text to Win contest is warm. You've got just seconds to get on that app and send us the word warm and be in the running for the prize this hour and for the grand prize drawings as well. Dr. Kristin Lyerly and Mike Clemens joining us in the next hour here live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. And we're away. All right, James. Thank
Pat,
you so
take
much.
care. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Good.
See ya.
D-Day, right? Right.
That's right.
Although, didn't the president look at a foreign leader and say that was a bad day
Oh, I
for
wish
you?
I may get to that yet. It's just
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a good day, Pat. Take care.
Yes. See you later. Good reminder on the Scotty Summer award there.
Yeah, I was really worried about it because I was like, I don't want to interrupt the panel, but also we should get that in.
Yep, we did.
We got a pretty good number of people even actually texting it with it right there at the close. So that was good.
Good. Good, good, good. All right.
across Wisconsin on Civic Media. You're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Good morning. It's 8:06. Nice to have you back here up north on this Friday morning, June 6th. Pat Kreitlow here in Chippewa Falls, Parker Olson in Madison Studio A2 at the Civic Media Global HQ. Have you come down from the high of your Whitewater baseball team winning the national championship this week?
You know, Pat, I thought I was, and then I saw some pictures this morning of the little homecoming parade they had yesterday, last night, and I was like, "Ooh, we're national champs. This is kind of cool."
So you did not race back there for the little parade, as you say.
No, I didn't. I had some self-restraint.
Okay.
Figured I should go to bed.
All right. Let's see. I believe I'm sure that I mentioned Dr. Lyerly may be coming by, and I plumb forgot that I believe she has a conflict today, so we will not be talking with her about. It's too bad because one of the last notes I got from her was that I don't know if she was there. I assume she was there, but she might have just told me that the Wisconsin Medical Society had its doctor day at Monona Terrace this week in Madison, and that Assembly Speaker Robin Vos was there, and that he made some crack to these doctors about them needing to do their research. And I had this great question that I wanted to ask Kristin, and it was whether there were any proctologists amongst all the doctors that were in there, so that maybe somebody could finally find whatever bug it is that crawled up Robin Vos's posterior and made him the way that he is, single-handedly preventing the expansion of stable, affordable health care for new moms from 60 days to 12 months. But unfortunately, if there was a proctologist there, we don't know yet. So Kristin should be here Monday morning at 6:30, and so we'll talk to her more about that and everything else that comes up. Robin Tigerton wants to congratulate you as well, Whitewater, for winning the national championship.
Thank you very much, Rob.
And we want to say again, happy birthday to the Rob, because I was looking at the post here that Dr. Lyerly put up all about Rob's birthday and collecting some birthday love. So we appreciate all of that as well. We always like to have everybody joining us by text or in the comment section or anything like that. It just makes everything so much more well-rounded. Mike Clemens is going to be here at the bottom of the hour, and we're going to talk a little bit of sports because there was that big comeback in the NBA Finals Game 1 last night with Indiana never leading in the game until the very end, 0.3 of a second left, Tyrese Halliburton shooting. And then the night before, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals went to overtime, and Edmonton came all the way back to defeat Florida. So Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals is tonight. And so, Parker, what have we learned from this? Don't go to bed early.
Oh, yeah, that too. I've learned that this is definitely going to overtime.
It could. And again, I don't have a problem with that. Well, one overtime. After that,
one overtime is fun. More than that, especially in hockey, because they do the whole 20-minute intermissions between.
Well, the Zamboni's got to do Zamboni things.
Oh, I know. It's just, it makes it so much longer.
I know. I mean, imagine if in between all the basketball periods, you had to take somebody's Hoover or Eureka, and we're just going to go up and down and vacuum the entire basketball court. Hockey.
That would be a really good marketing thing. Why didn't one of those robotic vacuums ever
Roomba? Oh, why wouldn't you? Oh my gosh, we hit on something. Roomba, the basketball court. Get a Roomba Zamboni for the basketball courts. Oh, I love this. Tony unhappy about all the many double-digit comebacks. Very frustrating because he wants them to lose. I assume he's talking about the Pacers.
Yeah.
And that just does not appear. Look, if there's one thing I know about sports, and there's not a lot, but the one thing I know is people going, well, these are small market teams, nobody's watching. People will watch a Game 7. And so the only thing, all they want is a long series. So they're happy Indiana won because Oklahoma City was the favorite. So as long as this keeps happening and they end up, instead of playing 4 games, play 5, 6, or 7, everybody's going to be very happy. Okay. Today is National Donut Day. It's mentioned in our newsletter. You can head over to upnorthnewswi.com for that link and to learn more about it, including where some national lists put some of Wisconsin's best donut shops at. I don't know that I have one these days. You know, some bakeries have come and gone over the years. I know down there in Madison, Greenbush is a very popular one. I know that it makes some national lists. I don't know about Whitewater, but did you have a favorite place to go get donuts back in the day?
I'm not, as much as I love donuts, I don't know that I've ever like gone out specifically for the purpose of finding a donut.
Mm-hmm.
Whitewater, oh, what's it called? I think it's Sweet Spot Cafe. I'm not sure if I've ever been there, but everyone says that it's very good.
Okay.
So
I would love if people got on either the text line or in the comment section and just gave a shout out to some local donut shops. In Eau Claire, there used to be a place called Hepner's Bakery, which was always good. Some of your local grocery stores, you know, can still make up some good fresh donuts. And I'll say this, and again, I don't mean this with any animus toward the folks here, but there's one chain that's known for its donuts. It's right there in the name. And yet I have never warmed up to Dunkin' Donuts, or now Dunkin' as it's called.
Is it just Dunkin' now? I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Well, it's DUNK''N, because again, nobody uses full words anymore because you got to text, you know, BRB, be right back, you know. So Dunkin' Donuts, and yet on the other hand, the chain that I can't believe had to eventually pare back and downsize, Krispy Kreme. Because I remember when Krispy Kreme donuts were relatively new and when the chain was really expanding.
Yeah.
And those puppies would come right off they'd put that glaze on right out of the fryer. So they were warm and they were gooey. And I still can't believe there's not one on every corner.
That sounds really nice. I would love some Krispy Kreme.
I know, doesn't it though? So anyway, National Donut Day. Again, a little bit more in our newsletter, upnorthnewswi.com. And then you can also follow us on social media. And if you do that, you'll find that there's a story there. I think it was first seen on CNN, and we put it in ours as well, about a Wisconsin artist who, using reclaimed wood, mostly from thrown out furniture, used that wood to create some very artistic logos for every NFL team. And then those wooden logos were on display all throughout Green Bay for the draft at Lambeau Field a few weeks back. And so it's a follow-up story about how that artist's handiwork, again, using the reclaimed wood, all that work is now going to, I think, the NFL headquarters to be displayed there. So you can find that story on our Facebook page. Now, Cassandra's jumping back into the donut debate here, saying Glazers are better, and Tony saying those are amazing. Okay. I'm not going to give you a full-throated endorsement of Glazers. I'm sorry. And then
Glazers are good.
Yeah. And Alicia's saying we've got a new place in Kimberly called Cheeky Donuts. I like that. Cheeky Donuts. So who else has got? I'm looking at. You know what? I was so busy looking at one text line that I didn't look at ours. So let me see if
Luke is getting. I believe those must be the donuts from Greenbush.
There is a photo from Luke Mathers on the text line of a box of Greenbush donuts on their way to. Oh my goodness!
I'm very happy.
I can be there in 3 hours. Let me just grab the car keys.
They'll be gone, Pat.
And,
I'm having that whole box.
They will. They'll be so gone. That is very unfortunate. Where was I? Oh, yes, I was talking newsletters because there'll be a weekend edition out as well that I'll be putting together here shortly with some of the top stories of the week. And again, you can head over to upnorthnewswi.com and subscribe to that there as well. There were so many stories that we didn't even get a chance to get to with the Week in Review panel. One that I just want to spout off on briefly. And it's based in a sad story. There was a death in Alaska of somebody climbing a mountain. And in the story, I realized that the New York Times had reverted to what Donald Trump wants to call it, which is Mount McKinley. And it had been Mount McKinley for a while when some white guy came along and named it after a president who never saw it, never visited it, but to honor him. But, you know, for all of its time previously, the indigenous community there had referred to it as Denali. And during the Bush administration, I believe, the name was formally changed back to Mount Denali. But Donald Trump, along with pretending to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, did the same and said this mountain is now renamed Mount McKinley. And I don't know what counts as official and what doesn't count. All I know is the New York Times really disappointed me yesterday by calling it Mount McKinley. And then deeper in the story, it says, a vast majority of climbers on Mount McKinley, whose name was changed from Mount Denali by President Trump this year, attempt to, and blah, 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 so on it goes. I'm like, why? Why even go there? Is that something that a president can just wave their wand and make happen? Because it's going to be changed back. I mean, we can do this all day long, but ultimately it's going to be Denali because most people understand the reason for it and the reason why the Mount McKinley title wasn't appropriate then and isn't now. The new jobless report has come out, and there's some good news and there's some bad news in there. Employers added 139,000 jobs last month, about in line with economists' expectations, and the unemployment rate is at 4.2%. Now, adding 139,000 jobs is nice, but there's also what the Times calls the Doge effect, and that is that the federal government last month alone shed 22,000 jobs. And since January, the federal government has shed nearly 60,000 jobs, probably more when you also look at the ones who were put on administrative leave or who were contractors and their contracts were cut. Now, again, there's a group out there that says, well, this is good. This is shedding government expense, which it is for the short term. And then you look at the services that they were providing, and you look at how things get worse in terms of service, or services aren't provided at all, and then it costs more in the long run to restore them, and you realize where the phrase penny wise but pound foolish came from. This is the Trump effect, the Doge effect of shedding all these folks for short-term gain. And again, I say, it's not like cutting all these jobs is going to put money back into anybody's pockets unless you're a billionaire, because all that money that's not going to pay middle-class people working for or around the government, that money is now just going to go toward tax breaks for the fabulously wealthy. And if you don't believe me when I say you can only shed so many jobs before quality of service struggles, just look at what Elon Musk bought when he bought Twitter and changed it to X. It's a dumpster fire right now. Yesterday was the most time that I'd spent on Twitter or X in about a year. And I left it not just because of Elon Musk and what he did to the company. He let like half the workforce go. The product suffered. And he had no problem putting essentially soft porn on Twitter and putting all kinds of rants from Nazis, and the place has just become a dumpster fire. Still go on time to time because you have to convey the news and the messaging, where folks are, wherever they are. But Twitter's nothing like what it used to be. And what Elon Musk did to Twitter is exactly what Musk and Trump are doing now to your federal government. We'll continue here live from Lake Wissota on a Friday morning, June 6th here, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Well, needless to say, I got to change the title and description for that third hour. So,
without Lyerly, yeah.
Yep. There we go.
Every day, I had a media credential for the NFL draft.
Yeah.
And every day we would stop at Quick Trip, and I got an apple and a glazer.
I've just, again, I like Quick Trip. I'm not, but the Glazers just, I don't know why they don't do it for me. I don't know.
I wish they were a little warmer, I suppose. A little fresher.
And I suppose if you warm them up,
yeah,
that would do it. Let's see. What are we talking about? National Donut Day?
Yeah. Still a whole hour on donuts.
Yeah.
And actually, because I had the media credential of the draft, I have been in that tunnel that those furniture logos were on.
Yep.
It was really cool.
I'll bet it was. Let's see. So we did that. There we go. I got to put a title. I got the description right, but I got to put a title in, which I'll do later.
Sounds good.
The Brewers are back at American Family Field for a long homestand starting tonight with a 3-game series against the San Diego Padres. Coverage begins at 6:35 on stations in Richland Center, Oshkosh, Racine, Kenosha, Park Falls, and Hayward. Head over to the Civic Media website to learn much more. One of the things that has happened in the age of Trump is we've discovered the Republicans, the conservatives out there who can still hold on to some basic American values of truth and fairness. And so even people with whom we would have vehement disagreements, think of your, Liz Cheney's and things like that, we find common ground from time to time. Here's a group of 4 people, 2 Dems, 2 Republicans, you maybe never thought would be co-authors of an op-ed column. Mandela Barnes, J.B. Holland, the former Attorney General, Mike Tate, the former chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, and former Congressman Scott Klug. And these 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats have put together a column called "We Know How to Fix the Biggest Lie About Wisconsin's Elections." The reality is Wisconsin runs a tight ship throughout the election season, and faith in election integrity is rising. And their point is, especially from the 2 Republicans as much as the 2 Democrats, is that we need to stop, they need to stop, Republicans need to stop spreading the lie that there's some kind of funny business going on in Milwaukee, the so-called late night ballot dump. Again, for folks who maybe missed the basics of this, people are upset and love to spread this conspiracy because election results don't come in from Milwaukee and some of the other larger cities until very late at night, sometimes the middle of the night. That's because they're big places. And it's easier to bring all of the ballots to a central count facility rather than buy a machine. You can buy a machine for your small town. You can buy a couple machines for your larger village. But imagine how much infrastructure would be needed in a city like Milwaukee. And people would say, well, why do you do that? Why don't you just put everything into a smaller number of machines, bring all the ballots there and count them there? That's what they do. And so they bring, and this happens in Green Bay and other cities as well, they bring all the ballots to a central count facility. It still takes a while to count them all because that's still a lot of people. And as a result, numbers aren't available oftentimes until later than smaller communities. That only makes sense. So what can you do about it? Well, one thing you can do is you can begin processing absentee ballots a day earlier. Not counting the ballots. They can all be counted on Election Day. But to process an absentee ballot means to look at the envelope, make sure it came to the right place, is filled out properly, has the witness signature. If all that's right, then you can open it up and then feed that ballot into the machine. So you could start reviewing the absentee ballots the day before so that you could set aside the bad ones, the ones that you're not going to count because there's something irregular about them, and have the rest ready to run through the machine from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day. This is simple. This is basic. Everybody understands it. And in the past couple of sessions, there have been bipartisan bills that would allow every place in Wisconsin to begin processing their absentee ballots the day before the election. And the past couple of sessions, a handful of Republicans has stopped it, had said, nope, these bills are not going to pass. And then they go on to spread the lie about the conspiracy, about funny business in Milwaukee with these late night ballot dumps. And so that's why you have now 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats with this column noting how strong election administration has been and how wrong it is that Wisconsin is getting a black eye about these late night ballots and that there is a way to fix this. 76% of voters in a survey they cite want to allow election officials to begin the absentee ballot verification process a day before the election. Voters understand that things are going right in this state, and so the call for reform is clear, they write in this column. Voters want their elections to be safe, transparent, efficient, and consistent. The proposal to begin pre-processing absentee ballots one day earlier and the push for standardized drop box rules are simple but important ways to address public concerns while reinforcing faith in the electoral system. So again, that is a plea put forward by Mandela Barnes, J.B. Holland, Mike Tate, and Scott Klug. A way to address a conspiracy that it's long past time that this be addressed. Alicia putting on YouTube, passing the early process would take away one of the Republican scare tactics. Yes, Alicia, which is why, unfortunately, even with this column by 2 esteemed former Republican elected officials and 2 Democrats, I do have a feeling that this bill might not pass. After all, we're having a tough time getting a bill passed to provide stable, affordable health care to new moms. A political bill about elections, that might be an even taller mountain to climb. Tony putting on, the current standard for drop boxes is that the mayor can take them whenever they want, right? He says, taking a poke at the mayor of Wausau. Yeah, quite possibly. And that thing is still dragging on as well. One more note to tell you about this, also from the Journal Sentinel, an article from Dan Bice about Bill Berrien, the Whitefish Bay businessman, a Republican considering a run for governor. But Dan Bice has been looking at some of his past donations and other activity and notes that Bill Berrien might have a tough time running for governor next year if he chooses to, because he not only donated $33,000 to Nikki Haley in her primary run against Donald Trump last year, he was also quoted back then in the Washington Post as saying, Nikki Haley's more aggressive posture toward Trump was welcomed as it is communicating the stark choice in front of the party and the country and the need for a generational change in leadership, said Bill Berrien. We'll talk to Mike Clemens about sports coming up next here up north. All right. Are you able, Parker, to listen to that voice note that came over about the leopards eating each other faces party?
Leopards eating each other.
It's the second to last text note that came in is the voice note.
Oh, I did not see that far. I will see what I can do with that.
See what you can do and see if we can hear it back over the break and see if it's playable.
Okay.
How's it going, guys?
All right, I'm going to pop up. We're looking for Mike.
Absolutely. Let me get him on.
All right.
Okay, I have the sound clip of the phone.
Can you? Are you able to play it for me?
Yeah.
These petulant children, Elon and Trump, from the leopards eating each other's faces party, are totally ridiculous. How much did Elon pay to have Trump elected again?
Excellent. Yep. Save that. We'll grab that right off the top, and I'll do a promo for the voice notes.
Okay, coming straight out of the break, we'll do.
Not straight out of the break, but I'll introduce.
You'll introduce it.
Yeah. Can you guys hear him at all or no?
I'm not hearing Mike at all here.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Hello.
Oh, Mike, are
Hi,
you there?
Mike.
There he is.
Hi,
Hey.
Pat.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Very good. Standing by.
All right, that's great. We'll be back up in 2 minutes, 15 seconds. Do you care where you want to go first? Either the shot by Tyrese or the Aaron Rodgers news?
Did you get my rundown?
Did I get a rundown? Let me see here. Did I? Oh,
Yes,
hey,
in your
there
email.
you go. I'm sorry. I was not looking for that, and there it is. All right. Well,
Okay.
we are set. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm gonna put you back in the waiting room. I'll come get you in 2 minutes here.
You'll get that from me late Thursday night every Friday morning, okay?
I love it. Appreciate it so much. All right. Talk to you in a bit.
I'm a happy guy.
And Parker's got a donut. Look at this. All right. What kind is that?
It's s'mores.
Oh.
Yeah.
All righty. All right. Keep that handy. We'll do the We'll do the voice note, the donut, and then off to Mike here. So, all right.
Yep.
Fosdal Bakery in Stoughton. There it is. Oh, that's a good webpage. 30 seconds. Welcome back. It's 8:35 on this Friday morning. First, shameless plug for the Civic Media app. If you head over to the app, not only can you text in keywords as part of our Scotty Summer Text to Win contest, and your next chance to do that, by the way, is in the 11 a.m. hour, but you can also send just general text messages to us. But you can also use the voice note feature where you tap that and you record a quick little message to us. If you're able to, throw your name and hometown in there. If you don't want to, you just want to give us your 2 cents on something. Here's one that came in just a bit ago from a listener to WAUK.
These petulant children, Elon and Trump, from the leopards eating each other's faces party, are totally ridiculous. How much did Elon pay to have Trump elected again?
And again, the answer there was $290 million, but that's part of the voice note feature. Feel free to use that. Send us notes anytime. If Parker were going to send us a note, the note would say, I got a donut. And for folks watching on social media, he still hasn't taken a bite out of this thing. But Luke, nice evil laugh. Luke Mathers has made it back from Greenbush and is showing off. Is that, what'd you say it was, a s'mores donut? He can't even talk. He's plowing it in his face.
It's s'mores, and it's spectacular.
Oh, my gosh. All right. We did ask where your favorite donuts were. Adam jumps up on YouTube and says, Fosdal Bakery in Stoughton has the best donuts, hands down. I looked it up on the website. Yeah, I'd eat those. That is some good stuff here. And from Tony, the aptly named Ashland Baking Company has all sorts of fantastic baked goods. So there you go. We're on National Donut Day. We're just passing things around here. Let's talk about sports for the weekend and bring in Mike Clemens, who will be joining us on a weekly basis to talk about what's happened, what will be happening this weekend. The man's on the road all the time. He's doing all these sports events, and so we've got to start. Oh, wait, I got one more here. Cassandra saying Manderfields in Appleton for donuts. So I got to start by asking Mike, of all of his travels, Mike, do you have a favorite donut place? Good morning. Thanks for being here.
You know, in my hometown of Beloit, there's a place called Old Fashioned Bakery that's been around for 50, 60 years. They do that elephant ear cinnamon crisp kind of thing.
Yes.
Oh, and that's really dangerous. But no, I love it. And and when you get into San Francisco, you talked about Fisherman's Wharf and the great seafood and everything. But they've got a couple of huge, giant bakeries right down there, by the water. Where you can smell the sourdough bread being made on it.
Oh,
yeah,
yes, I've smelled that there. Oh,
yeah, they should just rename it Carb City.
I believe it. Oh, I'd forgotten all about how good that smells there. That is wonderful. Where do we find you this week? Where are you traveling around to?
Going up to AmFam Field,
Okay.
about 30 minutes from where we live in the Milwaukee area, because the Brewers starting their longest homestand of the season, Pat. And tonight it's the Brewers against the San Diego Padres. Padres, pretty good team. They're in second place behind the division leader Dodgers over there in the West. And Murph is probably going to go with Chad Patrick tonight on the mound amidst all the other drama he's had this week. Did you see what happened to Brandon Woodruff in his was supposed to be his final rehab? I mean, it's just unbelievable. Brandon Woodruff has not been able to pitch for the Brewers since September of 2023. Then he has the surgery, and he had an ankle problem during this rehab, and then the other night it was supposed to be his last rehab start. It's the second inning. He's 12 pitches into the game, throws the ball, batter hits it back at him, hits him in the right elbow. He's right-handed. A contusion. He's had it imaged twice this week, but he's back on the IL. And they just can't get their veteran pitcher out there to lead out there. I mean, even help with guys like Freddie Peralta, just being a part of the clubhouse every day and a part of the rotation.
Yes, I mean the presence matters, and I'm sure he and everybody associated with the team is going. A break cannot be caught with this guy.
No,
So
No,
I do fully expect, and I don't mean to be flippant about this, but I will not be surprised if he does finally make it to American Family Field and on his way out to the pitching mound steps on a rake, because these just
that's the way it's going right now.
That's the way
it's going
it
right
goes. So we've got this long homestand coming up, starting with the Padres, and I'd best, before I forget, remind everybody that the pregame starts at 6:35 on stations throughout the Civic Media Radio Network. Head over to the website to learn more. So there's San Diego for the weekend, and then Atlanta Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday's a day game, but then we resume division work going up against the St. Louis Cardinals. So I'm not diminishing the first two series in this homestand, but boy, they'd best not wear out before next Thursday.
No, it'd be nice to win, if they could win all three of those series. But certainly when the Cardinals come here next weekend, Cardinals in second place right now behind the division-leading Cubs. But how about the Brewers just hanging in there, 5-6 games behind Chicago, but still getting through this period? And one of the things that's turned around, I mean, that dramatic grand slam that Kristin Lyerly had the other night.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the next day he gets hit, in his right hand with a pitch. And you're thinking, thank God it's not a contusion. And he managed to pop back up, woke up the next morning, the swelling had gone down, and he was back out there again. And then he hit another home run to finish out that series in Cincinnati. They've beat the Reds now 12 series in a row with that 9-1 win they had on Wednesday afternoon. A much-needed rest yesterday before they get into a homestand. So they're in pretty good shape. And it's just amazing what Pat Murphy has done, pulling bunnies out of a hat with the rotations of the pitching and coming up with this stuff like, D.L. Hall, the lefty, who's a solid pitcher. Everyone was disappointed. Why did they send in Logan Henderson down? The kid has won 3-4 games in a row here to start his career. But then you see DL out there say, okay, this is a grown man out there on the mound. This is a guy who knows what he's doing. So if they can get him going into full rotation, then they'll be positioned to make a run at this thing for the summer months and hopefully into the fall.
I sure hope so. It's good because I'll tell you, up 2 weeks ago or so, I thought, well, this is it with all the starting pitcher injuries. It just didn't feel like we were going to bounce back, and we did, especially sweeping in Philly. That was probably the best surprise of the year for me.
Absolutely.
About as surprising as Yelich not going down because he'd been so injury prone. Let's turn to football for a sec here. The Packers wrapped up their OTAs in Green Bay. For the uninitiated, Mike, OTAs are
organized team activities, and so technically it's volunteer, but it's like you and I in a staff meeting for radio. It's volunteer, but it's a good idea to show up to the staff meeting.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. So
it's what I do. It's the way I do it now is I do show up, I wave, I then turn my camera off. And I get a few other things done. The meeting's wrapping up. I turn my camera on. I wave, and nobody's the wiser. And so the Packers have an in-person version of that.
They do, and so it's helmets and shorts, but they're out there 11 on 11. And Jordan Love, man, he threw a ball 60 yards in the air and hit Jaden Reed in stride, and it might be one of the best passes I've seen Love throw, in his whole time in Green Bay. I mean, he's starting to hit these long balls that were kind of 50-50 in the past. Then he hits Romeo Dobbs in the corner of the end zone on a 2-point conversion, and it's looking pretty sharp. You're a little disappointed because you're looking off to the sidelines, and there's Marshawn Lloyd, who they drafted in the 3rd round last year from USC. I've got no data on this guy, Pat. I mean, he was injured so much last year and on IR. Then when he was coming off and looked like they might get him into some of the games, he has appendicitis. So they end up shutting him down. Well, we get into these OTAs, and I'm like so anxious to see what this number 32 can do, behind Josh Jacobs. And there he's on the sidelines again, this time with Christian Watson, who's coming back from an ACL, apparently a hamstring. We asked LaFleur about it. He goes, listen, we've seen enough from this guy to know that he could be special. But yeah, it's true. It's he's got to figure out a way to make himself available and to get. And they said that he worked out really hard after the season. He's been in the facility working out every day and trying to improve his strength. Then they let Malik Willis, their backup quarterback, take over the offense, running the ones, and he's moving the ball. He's throwing a couple passes 25, 30 yards downfield and looking really sharp. And I leaned over to one of the guys from the Packers who are on the sidelines and said, let me ask you a question. Do the Pittsburgh Steelers have anybody in their roster right now that can play quarterback as well as Malik Willis? Because they didn't. Earlier in the week between Mason Rudolph and was it Will Howard, the kid from Ohio State they picked up like in the 6th round? Mm-hmm. And, point well taken. Like, what are they thinking in Pittsburgh? And then we get yesterday's news. Aaron Rodgers is going to come in today, sign a 1-year deal, and it looks like we'll be there for their mandatory minicamp next week in Pittsburgh.
And this has been an ongoing, courtship, bromance, whatever you want to call it, with Steelers coach Mike Tomlin. Clearly there's a mutual admiration society, but nobody knew if they were eventually, if he was going to put his name on a contract, and he finally did for 1 year. Now the question becomes, will he still be around? Is it week 8 when the Steelers play the Packers?
Yeah, a Sunday night football. Steelers, it'll be Jordan Love against Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh on NBC Sunday Night Football. And he starts out, his career with the Steelers week 1 against, his former team, the Jets. It'll be Justin Fields, the former Steelers quarterback, against Aaron. So that's going to be, the NFL schedulers know what they're doing. But, at the end of the day, Aaron can make things so complicated sometimes. And, he's done this thing where he used to criticize Brett Favre for this. Well, he's doing it where he finds out ways to get away from the OTAs and the mini camps. As a matter of fact, his last year in Green Bay, he was week 3 of training camp, complaining about some of these young receivers that he had around him that they picked up in the draft, like a Romeo
Yeah.
Dobbs and all that. Like, these guys got to pick it up, right? And I've covered him all those years since he got drafted in Green Bay. And I said, Aaron, you know, when Brett would come in here for training camp, it would take about 2.5 weeks for him to get going, right? And he smiled. Yes, that's true. I said, and you came here day one, and you were ready to go. And he smiled again. That's right, because he was in tip-top condition. He was ready to go. Unbelievable passes, unbelievable tricks with the football. Day one of training camp. But if you're going to complain about these young receivers, wouldn't it help if you could come to some of the OTAs or the mini camp to, you know, let them get more reps with you? And some of the beat writers later said, dude, do you have a death wish? He'll never talk to you again after a question like that. No, I know this guy the whole time. And that's when he gave his kind of famous answer. He goes, look, the off season, you know, those programs, OTAs, are all fine and good. That's the 100 level curriculum for our offense. When I get here, that's the 200 and the 300 level when I'm on the field, because we run a different offense when we're on the field. And that right there is the problem, because with the 30 hand signals, he makes it so complicated at times. That's some of the problems that some of these players around him have. But they love him as a guy and as a talent. It's just if they can somehow be on his same wavelength.
Yeah. We've got the AmFam Championship this weekend at TPC. You had the Women's U.S. Open last Sunday at Erin Hills. And I got 30 seconds left here for you to tell me about Game 1 of the NBA Finals. The Pacers leading one time and at the very end.
Therese Halliburton does it again. The kid from Oshkosh North High School, you know, they're down by 15 in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
He gets it within 4, so he comes down, a jump shot from the right-hand side, good, and the Pacers steal one. First lead of the night, 111 to 110 with 0.3 of a second left last night. Game 2 is Sunday night in the NBA Finals.
Oh, that counts. Yeah, winning at the buzzer there. We're talking Friday Sports with Mike Clemens. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. And I don't know if Mike is still there, but if Mike wants to hang around through the break, he can. If he's got to go, that's fine too.
Got another station, Pat. That's the way I want to do it every Friday. Talk to you next Friday.
That's
same time,
perfect.
Okay?
All right, buddy. See ya.
Thank you, boys.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Mike.
That is textbook right there. That is 200. That's 200 level right there.
That was pretty good.
Yes, it was.
Too.
Great, Dom. Thank you for getting all that set up.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Have a good rest of your show.
All right.
Thanks, Dom. Appreciate it. I'm going back to my donut.
I was going to say, you guys still don't have a second microphone in there, do you?
In here?
Yeah.
We do. We just don't have 2 webcams.
Oh, okay. I just wanted Mathers to, get proper credit for bringing the donuts. So.
That's so good.
Cassandra, describe what's on the donut for us.
Well, you see, it's a s'mores donut here. Okay.
So we got a little graham cracker crust there.
So we got some
Chocolate, a little marshmallow.
graham crackers on top.
Okay.
You got your chocolate frosting. And I do believe that there's a little bit of marshmallow in there. I'm not sure. I don't see any, but I've tasted. That's what counts, baby.
That's right. I might ask you to do that again after the commercial here.
Yeah.
Of course, it might be gone by then, too. So, that's
I'm
fine.
working on it.
Yeah, I see that. All right. From Cassandra on YouTube, describe what's on the donut for us, Parker. For folks who might have missed it, Luke Mathers brought in donuts for National Donut Day are they from Greenbush? I couldn't quite see on the photo there from Mr. Mathers.
Did not say. I believe that they are. That's my guess.
I believe so too. And you've just been going crazy about what little bit remains of that donut there. A s'more donut?
Here comes Luke too. He's excited about this.
He should be.
Oh, yeah.
He's making sure you don't get crumbs on the board. That's all.
Oh, no.
So
it's fine.
So we got to have some graham cracker, right?
Yeah.
There it is. What do you got? Which one you got, Mathers?
Jelly. That's a good one.
Oh, I'm jelly. Yeah. You see what I did there? Yeah.
I see what you did
So
there.
a little graham cracker, a little chocolate. Yeah.
Little graham cracker, a little chocolate, a little chocolate frosting. And I do believe there's got to be some marshmallow in there. I don't see it, but man, I taste it.
Dehydrated marshmallow powder. I don't know. Somehow or another, it's on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good. It's good stuff. I'm a fan. I will be going back to this place. I will make sure I know where this is.
I'll tell you, I'll even give you a chance to eat it right now because I've got to do a little exercise here. If you'll indulge me for a moment.
I'll indulge.
See, as part of creating the new Sunday newsletter at Courier Newsroom, parent company of Up North News, they said, well, here's a launch kit. Here are all the ways to publicize, the Sunday morning newsletter. And one of them they suggested was an intro video saying, just talk a bit about yourself and, the product, in this case, the Sunday newsletter, and let people know they should do it. So I guess theoretically, I'm supposed to go do a selfie video. Maybe I'm supposed to go outside with my phone here and say, hey, I'm Pat Kreitlow. Da, da, da. Well, I got a camera right here. I got a willing audience right here. And I got judges in the audience to tell me if this works or not. Let's just do the video right now. We'll do it live, as Bill O'Reilly used to say. So let's give that a shot. What do you say? You ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, go ahead. We'll even give it a countdown. 3, 2, 1. Hey, this is Pat Kreitlow from Up North News. You can catch me live right here on the radio across the Civic Media Radio Network weekday mornings from 6 to 9. Like right now, I'm exposing our radio listeners to this announcement about our new Sunday morning newsletter. It's called Sunday Mornings with Pat Kreitlow. Just like the radio show is called Mornings with Pat Kreitlow. Very convenient, isn't it? On Sunday mornings, I put together a newsletter that wraps up some of the political stories that happened around Wisconsin over the past 7 days. Lots of it happening in our state capital, some of it happening in other places around our great state. I was an intern for my state legislator in middle school, and it was then, as a good little nerd that I am, I got an appreciation for state government and how very important it is. Funding our schools, making sure that our roads are in good shape, making sure we take care of our natural resources, and of course, our people. State government does all those things. I even went on to serve in state government in the legislature for a time. But I've always been a political reporter and broadcaster at heart, and I now have this opportunity to share what I learn each week with you. You don't have to watch the legislature week after week. I take care of that. Tell you what's going on, and then engage you a bit with something called our question of the week, where I will ask a question about state politics. You'll respond by responding to the newsletter through email or sending us messages otherwise. I'll put those together and share those in the following week's newsletter. It's all called Sunday Mornings with Pat Kreitlow. You can find it on our website, upnorthnewswi.com. Click subscribe up in the top banner. You'll see all the newsletters that we offer here at Up North News. Click on the one for Sunday mornings. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. Now, that was supposed to be 30 to 60 seconds, and I'm pretty sure, Parker, that ran so long, you finished your donut and probably stole Mather's donut and ate half of that as well. But I'll take care of that in what they call post-production.
Well done.
Well, I just take care of all the best of the rest,
Yeah, you got it.
I like that. We might actually make this a thing. We might just do a daily wrap-up video at this point. Tell the kids what we learned. What did we learn today?
We learned that we do it live.
We do it live. Tony, roads and resources, you nerd. Yeah. Yes, nerd. Totally guilty. I was that kid who it was, liking my social studies class so much that when I was running into issues at school and going to my school counselor, and he says, I know exactly what to do. And he picks up the phone and he calls my state legislator right then and there and says, I got this 8th grader with some time on his hands. We got to get him out of the classroom. Could you take him? And so every Thursday, I would just hop on a bus. I'd hop on a city bus. I'd put my dime in the fare box. That's how old I am. And take the bus out to the state capitol and basically open the mail, or I was like a gopher, a courier. I would just take things between, legislators' offices. And then I'd sit in on the sessions, on the floor sessions, like a page, essentially, and loved every moment of it and thought, I'd like to do this someday. And I did, as a reporter and then as a legislator. And now I get to share all this with all of you. And sometimes you respond, and sometimes you say, can we hear more about the donuts, please? But either way, I just try to bring a little something extra that you might not get out of state government. So if you're getting that from this radio show, if you're getting it from our newsletter, if you're getting it from our coverage on Up North News, well, that just makes me happy. And I'm glad you guys all are here. I know I'm hearing you now going, please, more donut. All right, more donut. The donut's gone, right?
Donut's gone.
I mean,
Donut was gone about halfway through your little soapbox.
I know, and I think I deserve one. So guess where I'm going as part of my rounds today. I'm going to stop at the Chippewa Falls Post Office, check P.O. Box 27, 54729, see what kind of notes have been sent along, and along the way, I will have the radio on 93.5 The Tap here in the Chippewa Valley, because coming up next on Matt and Air on Air, guests include Dan Schaefer, Civic Media's political editor and founder of the Recombobulation Area. That's part of Matt and Air on Air coming up next. And then Todd Alba will have sports and positive thinking with Brady Ewing, a former Badger and NFL fullback, and so much more ahead coming across the Civic Media Radio Network. Parker Olson, have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday morning.
You too, Pat. I'll see you.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for being a part of our program this week. I'm Pat Kreitlow, founding editor of Up North News, the Wisconsin outlet for Courier, a pro-democracy news network. Follow us at upnorthnewswi.com. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday morning here up north. It's just drama. Who cares? Heather, do you know how many different ways the state budget can go? Good or bad? All right. Have a good weekend, everybody.